cheti, na ile cheti is recognized internationally. So wherever you go, it's the same certificate from all over the Alliance Française in the world. And this Alliance Française from Dar es Salaam is part of a big network all over the world. We have like 800 Alliance Françaises in the world. So karibuni sana. The next session inaanza mwezi wa nne. So I think the last date for enrollment is like the 4th of April. Na tuna classes ya aina mbalimbali. Tuna classes ya kila siku, kila asubuhi. Tuna classes ya wiki ya mara mbili kwa wiki. Na tuna pia conversation class. And the prices start. You have everything in the brochure here, so you can have a look. And it's a very open place here, Alliance Française. It's very open to everyone, and especially to the Tanzanian students and Tanzanian artists. So karibuni sana. And if you want to have more detail, you can go and see Consolata within the library. Thank you and welcome to Alliance Française. And thank you to the French Embassy to organize the debate.
Asante sana, a big round of applause. Asante sana, and now we have Cecile representing the French ambassador to Tanzania. Cecile, a big round of applause to Cecile, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Austin. I won't be able to sing as Benko, but I will try to do my best for having a nice speech. So dear participants, dear researcher, dear Coleman and Soka, dear representative of the civil society, dear students, thank you so much for coming here for this new debate. So I will talk about in France, just to show you how the civil society, the consumers, and the farmers' organization have had a great success in France, and they try their best to change the law in Europe and in France about the pesticides, because there is all the history behind us, and also the lobbies. They are very powerful in Europe. And they had this capacity to convince our governments years ago, like 30 or even 40 years ago, to develop conventional agriculture in Europe. So as I was mentioned, we know that the exposure to pesticides increase the probability to develop certain types of cancer. It is already proved. So you have a lot of cancer related to the use of pesticides. And also these studies have shown that there is an increase of the risk for children to develop cancer, even early childhood. So as you know, France was ranking the first country using pesticides in Europe, because we are also the biggest European agriculture area. So we are a champion on that, and we are not proud of that, and we can feel the consequences of this using pesticides on the public health. So after years of conventional agriculture, the mobilization of the citizens and of the farmers bring the attention to the authorities to change the laws and to develop another way to produce healthy food, which is organic food. And we have with us a representative of the movement I Am Organic. So you can also, please, and you can also give your testimony during this debate. So I would like to mention one of the advocacy leading by this farmer called Paul François. He used his personal stories to the European Parliament to talk about this disease, and he was developing cancer because he used a lot of Roundup. So Roundup is a weed killer, even used here in Tanzania. And he proved that there is a link between the cancer that he developed and the Roundup and the pesticide. And he sued the company, who was Monsanto. So it's a U.S. Giant company. And he received compensation from the state for that. And so this mobilization of these farmers and the group of farmers who were able to speak up and to explain their personal story to the European Parliament was so powerful that the European Parliament decided to change. And in 2020, the new Green Deal from the European Union was adopted with a clear objective to reduce the use of pesticides of 50% by 2030. So it's very ambitious targets. And the second objective is to have 25% of the cultivated lands must be organic. So you see, now in France and in Europe, we are trying to turn to organic. So that's why, in France, some of the local authorities decided to ban the use of pesticide in their yards. So some of this in some of this community, there is no pesticide at all authorized on the land. So they took a measure who is higher than the national standard because they were waiting for a change within the national laws or the European laws. But because it takes time, they took themselves a self-regulation on their community. So just to show you that there is also this movement toward the local authorities. So in Tanzania, the French embassy supported an international conference held in Arusha in May 2 years ago, organized by Professor Vera Ngowi from US, which is here today and participate to the panel. Because we really think that for Africa, it is a time to do research, and it is a time also to use research to convince the authorities about the consequences of using pesticides and about, this movement needed toward, and the links between the researcher and the civil society. Because without these two components, we cannot convince the authorities. So we need researcher, and we need also a powerful civil society able to use the proof coming from the research to do advocacy and to convince the authorities. So we support this project, and we continue after this conference in Arusha. So now there is a global network within the researcher who are leading research on pesticides in Asia, in America, in Europe, in Africa. So we continue to support this research with a new project, and Vera Ngowi is also part of this project. And they will organize a big conference in Arusha, end of April or May. It will be a policy dialogue to engage the government of Tanzania about this and to take some measures to reduce the use of pesticides in Tanzania. So now it's time for the debate. I'm really happy to have you all here because you represent all the society. So thank you so much for your participation. And we have also Matima Juma coming from Zanzibar. So thank you so much for coming from Zanzibar to participate to this debate. And so I give you the floor. And please, if you can engage and raise questions, we really want to have interactive debates. So feel free to take the floor to ask for the question, and we will give the time to the student and to all the public to raise questions and then answer from the panelists. Thank you so much, and I wish you a fruitful discussion and a great debate.
Thank you very much, Cecile. Cecile, just before you step down, you deserve a bigger round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a bigger round of applause. Cecile has been the vision, the dream behind this debate. So we are here because Cecile dreamt about this day, and made it a reality. So thank you very much. Thank you. You can. Pleasure. This is what we call affection. You want to make sure that the country in which it serves, Tanzania, we are so lucky to have you, Cecile, really transform. We transform the mindsets, we transform our practices so that we lead healthy lives. And this is actually the essence of this debate this evening. So before I bring my panelists to the stage, I want us to watch the first. We're going to have very brief videos, like 2-3 minutes, tops, to basically get us to think onto how this evening is going to unfold. Karibu.
Careful you are, it is likely that you've been exposed to pesticides. The gorgeous veggies and colorful fruits you see in the markets are grown with the use of pesticides. Whether you like it or not, pesticides are everywhere, and some level of exposure is inevitable. Yet, not many people are aware of what pesticides are, and how they affect human health. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, a pesticide is any substance that is used to destroy, repel, control or prevent plants and animals which are considered to be pests. Pesticides are specifically designed to be toxic or poisonous to people. They can potentially endanger humans, household pets, and the environment as well. In fact, pesticide poisoning and related fatalities are a fairly common occurrence, with over 5 million cases occurring each year across the world. Experts broadly classify the effects of pesticides as topical or systemic. Topical reactions are usually limited to areas of the body that have come in direct contact with a pesticide. Inflammation of the skin, such as a rash or blisters, is usually the most common topical symptom. Other topical reactions may include sneezing, wheezing, and coughing, which are usually triggered by petroleum distillates that many pesticides contain. Systemic effects of pesticide poisoning are rather different from topical reactions. They are also more difficult to diagnose because you have already absorbed the pesticide, and symptoms can show long after initial exposure. Signs to watch out for include headache, fatigue, nausea, intestinal problems, and difficulty in breathing. Severe pesticide poisoning can cause seizures, change in heart rate, and sometimes pesticide poisoning or acute toxicity from pesticides is usually the result of a single and brief exposure to a pesticide. This kind of poisoning can happen due to exposure via the skin, inhalation, through the eyes, or orally. So, to stay safe from these side effects of being exposed to pesticides, better avoid using such chemical in your homes. And also prefer using fruits and vegetables which are grown organically.
Thank you very much. A bigger round of applause to those who put that video together. Asante sana. I would now like to call my panelists this evening. So our debate this evening, am I hiding behind some stuff? Can we take this down, please? Yes. So our debate this evening is going to be divided into two parts. The first part is to understand what are the pesticides, how do they get into our systems, and then the second part, we're going to look onto now the impact, okay, where we shall have good testimonies from I'm Organic, probably the only one organic shop in Dar es Salaam. We'll learn a couple of other things, but for now, as we are looking onto the pesticides, how do we consume them, as we've seen, how do they come into our systems, and then I'm going to give you a room to ask questions, and then we're going to go on to the impact, okay? The impact, and I'm sure some of you are coming here with testimonies. I'm not going to ask anyone. You are going to come and tell me yourselves. First, on the stage, Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to invite Mama Dora Swai. Please come to the stage. She's the program officer for Agenda, non-governmental organization. She brings to this debate this evening more than 20 years of experience in environment management field. A big round of applause to her, ladies and gentlemen. Asante sana. Allow me to invite my second panelist, Dr. Harry Tungaraza, a specialist oncologist from Muhimbili Hospital. Cancers. Okay? We all have cases of cancers. If not in your family, if not in your household, in your neighborhood, if not in your neighborhood, in your district, if not in your district, in your region, if not in your region, in your country, if not in your country, in the continent, if not in the continent, in the world. So we have a specialist oncologist from Muhimbili Hospital with us this evening, and we are delighted. Doctor, thank you for being with us. A big round of applause to Dr. Harry Tungaraza. Third, to be invited, not on the list of importance, but just alignment. Allow me to invite Dr. Mwatima Juma. A big round of applause to her. I call her my mother because of the wisdom she bears and the mentorship that I reap from her. Former program manager for IFAD Tanzania. She is currently the CEO of PPIZ, which is Practical Info. I will get to that, Mama. I was giving you the attention. Chairperson of the Tanzania Organic Agriculture Movement here in Tanzania. Ladies and gentlemen, Mwatima Juma, a big round of applause to her. For the first part, allow me to invite my last panelist, Dr. Vera Ngoi from Muhimbili University of Allied Sciences and Health and Allied Sciences. Apologies, my dear friends. Health and Allied Sciences. Dr. Ngoi has spent almost, if I say she's spent all her life, it means she's going to the end. Well, she's only 16. But she's spent most time of her life looking onto the pesticides in Tanzania. And we are highly, highly delighted to have her with us this evening to take us through the pesticides in Tanzania. How did they get into Tanzania? She has a lot, and I wouldn't really wish to take this time to preempt. Ladies and gentlemen, a bigger round of applause to Dr. Vera Ngoi. I will now take my seat as Dr. Vera Ngoi. When you're ready to speak, just pull the mic to the front. The mic is right behind you. And start. As I'd mentioned, if I had those chairs that side, that means you all are my panelists. Okay? So please participate. Give us your active participation by asking questions, giving comments, giving contribution. As I'd mentioned earlier, we've all been impacted by pesticides one way or the other. The objective, and I really want to make this very clear, is that when you know, you can make informed decision. Do I want to consume this that has been raised in a pesticide-full environment, or do I want to consume this because it's really been looked after very, very well? Good for the environment, good for myself. Okay? How are we leaving this world for the next generation? These are some of the questions that should be resonating in your head, and my wonderful specialists, all of us together this evening, are ready and eager to answer all the questions you have. So please now allow me to take my seat as I invite Dr. Vera Ngoi to, first and foremost, tell us, what are pesticides? And why, literally, are we discussing pesticides this evening? Dr. Ngoi.
Thank you very much, Austin, for the good introduction that you have given me. Good evening, everyone. It's good to see you, and I'm delighted to see young faces. It's like I'm in the classroom at MUHAS. But this time I'm not teaching. I just want us to discuss about pesticides. I've been asked to tell you what pesticides are. I think you saw it in the video there. The video that is telling has told us most of what I wanted to talk about. But I'll just repeat a little bit just to show you that pesticides are chemicals. Chemical substances, they can be single or mixtures that are used to kill what we call pests. And a pest is anything that you don't want around you. And most of the time, we kill what we call pests because they compete with us for food or maybe for our luxuries, for our properties, so we want to destroy them. We can either kill them or we can chase them away. We can repel them. So anything that we use is normally called pesticides. We are concerned with chemical pesticides. Pesticides can either be chemical, synthesized in the factory, or natural. We have natural pesticides. We have a lot of plants that are poisonous. Some of them, they've been used as pesticides for many years. Those ones are not the subject of our talk tonight. So pesticides in this country, they have a long history, just as long as pesticide history goes, because it started in 1945 when a clever scientist, a chemist, who was trying to synthesize chemicals that were to be used during World War II to kill other humans. But unfortunately, he did not discover it early enough. The war ended, and he had this poison in his lab. So he had to find something to do with this chemical, and this is called DDT. They decided to try it on insects, and it killed insects, so it was introduced as a pesticide in the world. And it was introduced for mosquito control, specifically, because during World War, there was movement of soldiers from one end to the other, and many of them, like those who came from temperate to the tropical area, they found mosquitoes that were carrying malaria, and many of them died of malaria. So that is the history of pesticides from 1945. So in this country, research was done on pesticides for WHO since that time, and it was in Uganda, Entebbe. But then it moved to Arusha, the current Tropical Pesticide Research Institute, where I've worked all my life. I started working younger than you people, because when I finished Form 6, that's when I started working at TPRI as a lab technical assistant until I finished my PhD. I ended up becoming the chief research scientist. Then I moved to MUHAS. That is another history. So pesticides normally are classified according to either use. If they are used on insects, we call it insecticides. If they are used on weeds, we call it herbicides because it's killing herbs. If it is on fungi, which causes diseases, we call it fungicide. We have acaricides, we have molluscicides, we have all those sites you find, those are targets. They are according to targets. But then we also classify them according to the group, the chemical group that they belong to. We have different types, different groups of pesticides. We have organochlorines, we have organophosphates, we have pyrethroids, we have carbamates. Those are another classification of pesticides. But all in all, these are toxic. And the chemical groups, they are the ones who determines the mode of action, how the pesticide is going to act on a living organism. Most of the time, they target either insect or plant. And these modes of action, they differ from each pesticide. So if you are poisoned by an organophosphate, your treatment will be different from somebody who is poisoned by a pyrethroid or a organochlorine and all this. So those who are from medical field, they need to know the pesticides that affect their people so that at least they can give the right treatment. So because they are poisons, they have to be controlled. They have to be regulated in order to protect humans and the environment. And that is why in this country we have regulations, which maybe I'll get a chance to talk about it later. We have regulations to control and regulate the use of pesticide in the country in order to protect non-target organisms. And this is important to us because we've been looking at the impact, which we are also going to give more details. The impact of pesticide comes from using pesticides in a way that affects us. And is there a way that you can use pesticide without it affecting you? It's very doubtful. So in a nutshell, that is what pesticides are.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Yes. Wonderful. Dr. Mwatima. Pesticides. Dr. Vera has explained them very well. And I'm happy the way you've defined if they used, different purposes, then they give them their given names. Dr. Mwatima, why whatsoever do we use pesticides? Why?
Thank you very much. I'm also very happy to see the young people that are interested to understand what is going on with the pesticide. I will say this is in twofold. There is a business here, and we are the market of that business. Dr. Vera mentioned that in 1945, after the war, they end up having all these chemicals. What we do with it? Immediately, it jumped into we can use it to kill, without asking ourselves, why do we have to kill? Be it a weed, be it an insect, why do we have to kill? What happened in the nature that causes us to kill? That should have been the question for us. But we jump into conclusion that this thing has to be eliminated, without knowing that when you eliminate one, you cause imbalance and another one will come up. And the one you are eliminating, it makes it self-resistant, another thing is coming up. And those people, the multinational who are manufacturing those chemicals, they get excited and they know that now they have a stable market. And we are that stable market. And all the time in my discussion with other people, even with the young extensionists, I keep on telling them, do you know that you are the salesperson? That you are the salesperson, you are selling these chemicals without even knowing who is the owner? That without getting anything, as soon as the farmer comes to you, you said, oh, go and buy this chlorinated whatever. And you get excited because the tin is written there, made in USA. The ingredient, you have no clue what it is. All this kind of a shape, you know them in your science. What are they? It gives you a confidence. We have been brainwashed and we have been told without those chemicals we don't survive, not knowing that we have been turned into a market. Unfortunately, in the last 55 years, we have all been told without the chemicals we cannot produce. The life has been going on for the last thousands of years, but immediately it comes like without those chemicals we cannot produce. And then it has to come from somewhere else. It has to come from the factory. It is a business. There is no reason for that. It's unfortunate also in our own system. Doctor will talk more about the regulatory, but we don't police. And in our own system, we are also brainwashed. We get assistance, and I'm not shy to say that. As soon as the Feed the Future start coming in, that was the market for Monsanto and Syngenta to sell their chemicals in the name of supporting developing country to overcome poverty, to get away from hunger. They have to get all these chemicals. We have a live example. They come in with a package. They can give you irrigation facility, but they ask you for this irrigation, you also have to use this and that chemical. If you don't, then we don't go. Without this package, nothing will grow. More and more brainwashing are going on in our own people, with our own society, and we stand firm to protect those industry. We go to Seattle, we get brainwashed, we come back, we say, yeah. Without this one, we should not listen to this organic movement. This is getting us to the primitive. We have to supply, but definitely we are just the market, Austin. There is no need to use all those chemicals. People have found another way of marketing their produce. Cecile was telling us the more and more land now is converted to organic. Where will they sell? In Europe, when they police something, they are very strict. Don't use glyphosate, they don't use it. In here, it's coming here. They can even open the factory and manufacture here and tell us that they are protecting us so that we don't have to worry to go very far to get the chemicals. We are helping them. We are the market of the pesticides. There's no need for that.
We are the market of the pesticides. And when they open the factory, we send our CVs, right? Hey. All right. Thank you. Dr. Harry. Dr. Motima just concluded saying that we are the market. Okay? I'm going to go back to Dr. Vera and Dr. Motima at a very short instance, but for now, we have the situation already with us. And in a way, that situation is getting the best of us onto the soil, onto the environment, onto the human body. How then, doctor, do these chemicals that come, that have been mentioned, you probably do not know, but sooner or later you will learn that we consume them from our meals and foods and the milk, etc. But how do they then get into our systems? I've mentioned food. Yeah. But how do they get onto our table, doctor?
Thank you so much, Austin. I'm happy to be here today, and Dr. Vera has spoken about pesticides, and they do have different impacts on our environment or on our society. But also being a doctor, I've seen, and I'm happy that I'm here so that we could have a conversation and see how best we could make sure that our livelihood is not affected by these pesticides. And it's unfortunate that currently we have become a society of consumers. You know, consumerism is consuming us. We tend to want to buy a lot of products in big amounts, and therefore we push our farmers to want to produce more and more and more, and therefore they are also pushed to buy pesticides in order to produce more and more. So Austin is asking, how do actually pesticides get into our bodies? And then, of course, onto the table. There are many ways. They have been mentioned that pesticides, these are chemicals. And for any chemical to get into your body, it could be either in ways. One is inhalation, and I mean as in breathing. And therefore, you could either be using the pesticide as part of your job, or you could also be at home using that pesticide to spray that little thing that you don't like, for example, the mosquito. And then as you're using it or you're spraying it, the pesticides easily get into your airways, into your lungs. And therefore, as Dr. Vero said, some of the symptoms will depend on the type of pesticide that has entered into your body, but also how it has entered into your body. So if it has gone through your airways and into your lungs, most probably, after a few years or months or days, you'll have symptoms related to your breathing. And the worst outcome in this case would be cancer of the lungs. Okay? So that is one way, inhalation. And another one would be through direct contact. That is, a pesticide can come into contact with you through your skin. Okay? And that has been shown in the video that we have just seen. And the symptoms would be immediate, depending on the dose, or later on. And therefore, you might have a rash or a change of the skin. And again, the symptoms will range from one, we'll have a spectrum of symptoms, depending on the pesticide involved and the dosage. But it may not end just there in your skin. It can get into your bloodstream, and also become systemic, meaning that it could go to your lungs, it could go to your heart, it could go to your kidneys. And as you may know, currently we're also facing a lot of problems with kidneys, failing. Some of them are brought up by some of these chemicals or these pesticides. Another one would be by ingestion, and ingestion I mean by eating. And therefore, either you're using this pesticide and then accidentally it has poured into your hands or into your gloves and you have put your hand into your mouth, it will take you in, you'll swallow it. Or you have put it in your drink and then it will go in. But we have what we call residues, pesticide residues. So the pesticide have been used in the farm, okay? And for some reason it has persisted into the food, okay? It has been used in the farm, and then the product has been harvested and it has brought to your market, from the market into your home. And therefore the pesticide was used by the farmer, far away land. It could be within Tanzania, it could be outside of Tanzania. It could still come to your table, into that nice fruit that you enjoy, as a residue, okay? It has persisted, and then you'll eat it. And then later on, it will get into your bloodstream, and then it will affect you. Either you have a disease, you have issues with your fertility, or you have fertility issue, you have a kid, but the kid has problems, okay? And then there are many studies that have shown a linkage between women that are pregnant and exposed to pesticides with leukemias or lymphomas. On the 15th of this month, actually last month, 15th of Feb, we are celebrating International Day for Childhood Cancers. They are on the rise. I come from Umbila, and there we treat, it's the only center currently at least treating childhood cancers. But the numbers are going up. One of the reasons is this, that ladies that are pregnant, they're exposed to the pesticides. Now the pesticides are not just in our bloodstream, they are also in our amniotic fluid. And what I mean by amniotic fluid, that's the fluid surrounding the baby. And then it crosses over into the baby, and then babies or children are born with different, defects. Either the child is not born, or is born with defects, or is born with disease. And the disease is not only cancer, it could be a heart defect, it could be a deformity of the limb, someone being born with a short limb or no limb at all, or a head which is too huge. All these things could be very much related to pesticides. So this is how pesticides, in a nutshell, get into our bodies.
Thank you, Doctor. A round of applause to Dr. Harry. I want to believe, as I'd mentioned earlier, that we're really using a very simple language, because at the end of the day, if we receive such powerful knowledge and then we do not tell that person in your house, if we do not tell that person in your school, then this whole is a total waste. Yeah? We are also live through YouTube, as you've seen, so please share the word around so that people may join us and be able to participate, ask questions, engage, etc., etc. Mama Dora, Tanzania is mainly an agricultural economy. Dr. Harry has totally, nailed it down from contact to, the ingestion, etc. So we cultivate, we use pesticides, we do this, we put food in our stores, we use pesticides, we do all sorts of stuff using pesticides, herbicides, like what Dr. Vera had mentioned earlier. In your 18 plus years of experience, can Tanzania do without chemical pesticides?
Hello. Thank you, Mr. Austin. Thank you for the question too. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to see you all. I hope I'm going to answer the question in the way that we will all understand. By the way, I'm from the civil society, so I'm used to simple language. I believe you are going to understand my response. Can we do without conventional pesticides? Can we do without chemical pesticides? Chemical pesticides are also called conventional pesticides. I believe yes, and I I've come to circumstances where people are producing products without using chemical pesticides. They use pesticides which are made from plants around them, or are made from animal products around them. Some are using animal urine, some are using plants like mwarubaini, or what we call, what is mwarubaini in English? Neem, yes. There are several plants that are used to produce what we call herbal concoction. This herbal concoction, when applied in the right way, it can produce products that are chemicals free. But you can't tell if it is chemicals free unless you follow the procedure and test the end product. That's when you will know that it is chemical free. Those chemical free products are what we call organic products. Now, right now, there are methodologies, including the agroecology. With agroecology, you produce crops following procedures that have been set from step 1 to the final stage, from the final step, without using any chemicals from the shops. Most of these conventional pesticides are those traded in shops around everywhere around Tanzania. With organic, with non-chemical pesticides, you won't find most of them in shops. They are made by farmers themselves. They have the formula. They train themselves, some in groups or as an individual. They train them. They learn how to make those pesticides, and they have been very successful. These technologies and practices are not only here in Tanzania, they are worldwide. You find them in India, you find them in Europe, you find them everywhere, even in USA, where they are producing those very complicated chemical pesticides. Some of them around those places, you will find that they are also preparing and using the non-chemical ones. And in fact, in Tanzania, there are some farmers, when you visit them, you will find that they have two parts of land where they are producing, for example, maize. They will tell you, this parcel of farm, I'm not using chemical pesticide because it is for my consumption, for my family's consumption. So I'm not using chemical pesticides here. But this side is where I'm using chemical pesticides because it is for business. This I will sell. They forget that the family member may travel to Dar es Salaam, for example, where we eat a lot of maize from the regions. The family member will come and eat ugali or vegetables which are being transported from the rural areas where they are growing, and they will consume pesticides, the chemical pesticides, which they assumed they will not take because they have already separated the portion of land to cultivate. So to answer the question, it is yes, because even the last example I gave is they are producing two parts of land, this one without chemical pesticides, the other one with chemical pesticides. So the answer is yes, it can be done.
Thank you very much. Before I take my next round of questions, and then I'm going to ask you to ask questions to our panelists, any of the panelists. And before I ask you, Dr. Vera, why do we have regulations, but we still allow chemicals in Tanzania? I would like us to pay attention briefly, a minute or two of this video that is going to be on display of a gentleman I had an interview with. Let me not preempt it. Please, let's play it.
To tell you one number, I was astonished when I read that in a newspaper, but you know, Europe is a big producer of chemical pesticides, and my home country, Germany, with companies like Bayern, BASF, and others, you know, they produce a lot of chemical pesticides. Now, they also produce a lot of chemical pesticides that the EU does not allow to be used in agriculture in Europe anymore. But they produce them and they export them to India, to Tanzania, to places like this. The EU every year exports 80,000 metric tons of chemical pesticides that they say is not healthy enough to be used in Europe.
Yeah.
But it's okay to export them. It's okay to use them in Tanzania, you know? And I think that just shows you that there is something wrong. Yeah? If Germany says this product is healthy, I think it's fine. There's an argument that we can use it here. But if Germany says we think it's not healthy, I think we here in Tanzania should ask ourselves the question as well.
Thank you.
Hendrik, that's a very pertinent issue, and I believe so the Monday agenda, you know, provoking minds for people to really digest on.
So that is me having an interview with one of the directors from GAZ. You gave a couple of examples in your earlier explanation, and I want to reiterate what you said and what Enrique said on my interview, saying, you know, not good for use in Europe, but it could be used in Asia and in Tanzania. Okay? So how do these regulatories, you're probably not from the TPA, those ones, but how then do they penetrate and get access into our farms, hence onto our tables?
Thank you very much for a nice question. And actually what Dr. Motima said, that we are a market, it's true, we are a market. And we are a market despite the fact that we are regulating the use of pesticides. We have laws that are meant to control pesticides that come into the country. And the pesticides that come into the country are supposed to be pesticides that are not, in quotes, harmful, which is very rare, are not harmful to end users. But unfortunately, when you have a business, you will do anything to make profit. And you will try to overcome all the obstacles that you encounter in order to succeed. And that is exactly what the chemical companies are doing. They are making sure that the law does not work. The law does not control them. Initially, we had, from the colonial time, and then we came to East Africa, we had the East Africa Pesticide Control Organization, which was started in 1970s, and it was supposed to control the use of pesticides in East Africa. And Tropical Pesticides Research Institute was also part of the East Africa community. But unfortunately, the community collapsed before the East Africa Pesticide Control Organization could take hold. So, because the buildings and all the structures were in Arusha, it remained in Tanzania, fortunately. So Tanzania, within East Africa and Africa, I can say, we are pioneers on pesticide control. And we have a very comprehensive law, that is the Tropical Pesticide Research Institute Act of 1979, that incorporated the East Africa Pesticide Control Organization mandates into that law. And it was controlling pesticide in the country. And pesticides are used in agriculture. They are used for public health to control like mosquitoes, cockroaches, rats, and so forth and so forth. Then we have most pesticides that are used for livestock, which are meant to control ticks and all those animal pests. All those were controlled by TPRI, the Tropical Pesticide Research Institute. The industry decided, no, this is not working for us because the control was tight. You had to register a product, and the inspectors were inspecting the product as it gets into the country from the port of entry, because you have to apply for a permit to bring in the product. They will take it, sample from there, and take it to the lab in Arusha to make sure that the quality is what you specified in your application, and then they will bring it into the country. And within the country, they will also follow it up to make sure that what you are stocking is what you said you are stocking. So it was a little bit difficult for them to do business. So they decided to go to the government and tell the government, I think you made a mistake giving the responsibilities for pesticide control to a semi-autonomous institution like TPRI. You need to do the regulation yourself as a ministry. The Ministry of Agriculture, which was given the responsibility to control pesticide, but through the parastate organization, which had this, the industry forced its way through and told them, take up the responsibility. So the ministry came up with the Plant Protection Substances Act of 1997 and removed the pesticide control from TPRI Act. They repealed only that part that was controlling the pesticides and moved it into the Plant Protection Act of 1997. And the ministry was supposed now to do the regulation itself, to control pesticides itself. But who in the ministry can do it? They didn't have enough human resource or people who could control it. So what they did was to delegate the powers to TPRI. So what was the point? TPRI was controlling pesticides using the Tropical Pesticides Act. Now they have to control pesticides using the Plant Protection Act, which means the registrar, although he's employed by TPRI, he's responsible to the minister. So he reports to the minister. And what does that mean? There is no control. The registrar is knowledgeable than the minister, permanent secretary, so what the registrar says goes. And this clever registrar now, with the freedom that is got from getting out of TPRI clutches, because TPRI, there are so many scientists who were there to control him, he came up with suggestions now on how to become more independent. Becoming more independent is now coming up with more freedom. And to make matters worse, the government started what they called private-public partnership, is it?
Public-private partnership.
Private-public partnership. And then we have, flag bearers, those who are carrying the flag, farmers' associations. They are the ones who are working with the government, saying that they are helping the farmers, and then they are helping the government at the same time. These ones, they sat with the registrar and told the registrar, no, you are controlling this pesticide too much. We can't get enough to produce as much as we want to produce. So let's fasten the process. Let's make the process faster. We have a system, fast-track system in the registration, where if you have a problem, a pest problem that requires to be eliminated, and we don't have the pesticide to eliminate this pest, and it is a threat, we can fast-track importation of a pesticide that is effective without it going through the process of, trials and, being experimental and then being registered for use. So you can fast-track products, actually. This is a rare occasion. But in 2009, through the public-private partnership, TAHA managed to convince the registrar of pesticides to fast-track 368 products at a go to come into the country without going through the, trials and all this. So 2009, Taha, working as a government, support, fast-tracked these products. And these products, only 65 were under experimental use in the country. The rest were new products. What do you expect? These products are the ones that are causing havoc here.
Taha.
So we have people from their own interest who are trying to help the industry poison us. And we are the ones who have entrusted them with our lives. Because as a registrar who is supposed to control pesticides to protect our health and those of non-target organisms, once he allows such an amount of pesticide to come into the country without being tried, that makes things worse. Now we have another law that has come up, the Plant Health Act, which came out 2020. That one has killed the TPRI. TPRI does not exist anymore, according to that law. And as you know, what do we know about brands? When we talk of brands, Coca-Cola, you hear Coca-Cola, you know it is a soft drink, isn't it? So we had a brand, TPRI. TPRI was a brand. When you tell anybody TPRI, they know that is pesticides control, isn't it? So the industry felt threatened still. Let's remove it. Let's remove TPRI. It was a brand that has taken more than 45 years to build. The same government, the same ministry which is supposed to work with it, feeling threatened by this TPRI, they have killed the TPRI now. What do we expect now? The registrar is supposed to be the director of TPRI. The director of TPRI becoming a registrar is a full-time job. How can a director become a registrar? He is asked, you can delegate those powers. Are we controlling pesticides? I think, let me end there. Questions will ask.
A round of applause to Dr. Vera Ngoyi. Thank you very much. These are powerful, and I'm happy you've mentioned the loopholes in the systems that allow the infiltration of pesticides onto our table. I'm doing 3 more, then I will invite, do we all have a series of questions already? Yeah. Our heads burning enough? Yeah. Excellent. I will come to you shortly. I just want to take 1 or 2 from my panelists, and then we'll move on. Dr. Motima, before you, and those following us through the YouTube link, is a representation, just a portion of a representation of people who want to be safe from all these pesticides that get onto our table, farm to table. How can we be safe, Doctor? With your experience and knowledge, you're already doing farm to table in Zanzibar, producing or ensuring every first Sunday and third Sunday she cooks wonderful, she prepares lunch from farm to table, no chemicals. How can we be safe? Some of us here, those of us following online, but as ambassadors from here, how do we carry the safety message onto our healthy and food systems?
Thank you very much, but please allow me just to say something from Dr. Vera. When they changed the policy to call plant health, they forgot about the human completely. And they are thinking now about protecting the plant. Well, they are killing the plant, but they are thinking about plant, and they are not thinking about the health of the people. So when you think about the health of the plant, you are thinking of the chemical to apply to the plant, not thinking the impact of those chemicals to the people. It's us now to see how we can get out of this. And I've always been talking about our health is our investment. If we don't work on it now, it will cost us later. It is very, very expensive to be sick, especially nowadays when you see young people with cancer struggling is very expensive. When you see young people go to dialysis, it's very expensive. And beyond that, these chemicals, my dear friends, is everywhere. Today we are talking about pesticide. This morning I was talking about the canned food, the fast food, the manufactured food that we are all consuming in the name of we don't have time to waste to cook. All this is what is getting into our bodies. You know about the computers. You all say garbage in, garbage out. You put that one in, you kill your own self. Maybe not immediately, but within time, this is a deterioration that we are going through. Yes, this is possible. What we are doing in Zanzibar, in my place, and I wish that a lot of these people can do in their areas. It's not a magic. At least 75% of what you are cooking should be from the area where you know that nobody has sprayed. And it is cooked in our own traditional way of cooking, and using our own traditional clay pots, because we now realize how much poisoning we are also getting even in our cooking utensil. That was also another business. Get away of your clays is a primitive. Bring in all these aluminum pots, and then you cook them, and then you eat that aluminum. We are told, maybe doctor knows about what aluminum is doing on the soft tissue of the brain. Sometimes you don't even want to go in detail to look into that. You get scared. But it is possible each one of us will say, okay, at least my spinach, even if I will do it in Magunia in front of my house, I will have it of my own. And I will reduce. And then slowly building into that one. I want to encourage everywhere in the village, in the district, in our household, to try to question what you are eating. Question what you are eating. Because we know that in Western countries, the organic mentality was brought in by the consumers when they say enough is enough. Here we said, jaza tumbo kwanza, usifikirie kimefanywa nini. Jaza tumbo kwanza, and then later on you end up in Ocean Road. Later on you end up in Muhimbili with all this complication. If we consumers says enough is enough, anything that is sprayed, we don't take it. Because sometimes we even see them in the market. In Mwanza, I have witnessed tomatoes. You see them in the market, sprayed with the coating of the chemicals. Why do you buy it? Do you treat yourself and saying, it's okay? There's a mentality that every smallholder farmer is not cannot afford chemicals. There is no use of chemical. We are all organic default. It is wrong, because now that multi-companies have been pushing these chemicals and every farmer is feeling to use it. Question what you buy in the market. Look at it. Even smell it and say, no, this is chemical. Shout it out. If you do that, then you can slowly move away from it, and those people will say, I don't sell. I have my own marketing of the organic produce. I don't even have to go for certification or what. I tell people, authentic, they believe in you, they trust you, you are not cheating into it, they come and buy from you. Who does not want to eat something that is chemical free? So that's how I see that process should be worked around. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. DIY. Turn to your neighbor and tell him or her, DIY. Do it yourself. Okay, let's put those pots of carrots and onions and potatoes around our household so that we know exactly what we consume. Doctor, still looking onto the loopholes, the systems, the laws, the policies, etc. What my two distinguished doctors have explained. Self-interest, you've mentioned Taha, other flag bearers that you couldn't mention, but I know time will come where you will mention them. If you want, I will make you mention them. And then what Dr. Mwatima also added on to very good explanation by Dr. Vera, saying that the focus has mainly been on plant health, soil plant health mainly. Doctor, being an oncologist for over 10 years, treating cancers, etc., the cost. In economics, we would call it an opportunity cost, but I'm not looking onto the opportunity cost now because the ball is already rolling. But what figures, if at all, financially are we looking at onto treating one single cancer patient, multiplied by so many cancer patients that we have, and sadly, my dear fellow panelists, that we have. What is the youngest age of a cancer patient at the hospital? 6 months? 1 year? 1 year. We have a 12-month-old baby who is diagnosed with cancer and already undergoing treatment. Okay? So, doctor, in a very nutshell, what is the cost of these loopholes? Looking onto just one aspect, cancer. But he did mention earlier kidney, liver, you name them. But this one.
Thank you so much, Austin. So, unfortunately, as a country, we have not sat down and looked at the numbers to see how much the use of pesticides in this country are costing us. But I'll just give a very simple example. So you have possibly a 35-year-old lady who has had a lump in her left breast, so maybe she's working in a bank. And yes, I've seen patients who are bankers, very corporate. And for some reason, they never saw a lump in their breast for years, and suddenly they come to the clinic with the lump. So the cost immediately is the time, absenteeism from work. So this is a person who is supposed to be very productive in this country, which we lag behind so much when it comes to the economy. We're a third world country, so we really want to be the ones really working hard. So we pull out this lady who's working in this financial institution. Instead of putting her brain, her creativity into the bank, she will not work for that particular day. She will come and see me. Unfortunately, she finds Dr. Tungaraza, who works at Muhimbili National Hospital, which is a public hospital. So for that whole day, she will not be to work because she has to see me. So she spends the whole day. So productivity has gone down. When you come to that particular individual, the mental burden of thinking that she's going to be told she has breast cancer is too enormous to herself, to the institution, to her spouse if she's married, to her siblings, to her relatives. So these are things I cannot compute here. Not even a supercomputer will tell you how much that is. It's priceless. What is it? It is priceless. We haven't known the diagnosis and confirmed it. So she's told she has the disease C, which is cancer. Maybe it's stage 3, stage 4. What comes next is cost in terms of investigations. A CT scan would range from about 200,000 to 300 to 400. Now I'm talking about Muhimbili National Hospital. I'm not talking about Aga Khan and name what. Okay? So there are blood tests, there are CT scans, there are MRIs. By the time she's known to have that disease, most probably she has spent between 1 million to 5 million on diagnosis. Okay? Then she goes to treatment, which will include surgery, will include chemotherapy, and maybe it will also include radiation, mionzi. So the surgery itself maybe will also cost, again, in a public hospital. These are average numbers. We're talking about 1 million maybe to remove that lump or to remove the breast. And then she'll do the chemotherapy afterwards, which will cost her to come to the hospital for the next 6 months. Between 6 months and a year, she'll keep on visiting the hospital for us to try and treat that disease, which we're not so sure we're going to cure. Because most probably it's an incurable. For each cycle that she has to go through within a month, she has to see me 3 times to get a single cycle. A single cycle consists of about 3 drugs, chemotherapy drugs. One of them, maybe just one, will cost about 200. So times 3, that is 600 per cycle. Again, there's time, there's money, there's mental. These are things that will go back to our home. And then there are new drugs that we now use to treat cancer. We call them target therapy. Damn expensive. So from the conventional one that are costing about maybe 200, 300 Tanzanian shillings, this particular one, a single one will cost you between 2 million and 4 million. And they're available here in the country. A single visit or single infusion of this drug is about 2 million. And if you look around, less than 12% of Tanzanians are insured, or they have medical insurance. It means the rest don't have. They have to cash out. Who can pay 2 million to buy a cancer drug that may not even be the cure, just to prolong. Okay? So the costs are enormous. And I've just spoken about a 35-year-old lady who has a disease, which most probably after me treating her, then later on, maybe if she requires radiation, again radiation, if you go to, let's say, Besta, which is a private institution, or Ocean Road, if you look at the numbers, they'll tell her for you to do the radiation, you have to cash out 10 million to finish the sessions. These are real numbers. So we are talking about, most probably, by the time she's diagnosed until she finishes the treatment, which is not promising any cure, you're talking about maybe 20 to 30 million.
This is per patient.
This is per patient. For a disease that I'm not so sure I'm able to win against. And I'm talking about just Tanzanian shillings. I'm not talking about the other hidden costs, what I also sometimes call hidden scars, the mental health issues, the broken relationships, because now she has a single breast instead of two. The promised promotion at her workplace, because maybe she was supposed to be promoted to the next level to be a manager, but now she's not being seen. She's not in the boardroom because she's with Dr. Harry being infused chemicals and more chemicals on top of the pesticides that she had. So the costs are huge, and at the end of the day, the cost is the human life. Because it is possible after a few years I'll lose this lady who I've known for 2 or 3 years. I too am affected. I've lost a friend. Because I'm human, right? If I meet Mary today and then I see her for the next 1 year, she becomes not a patient. She's not X, she's not Z, she's Mary. She's a Tanzanian. And sometimes these are classmates, maybe friends to friends. So the costs are very huge. The person affected is not only the patient, people around her, and in the end it is the country. It is the country. Because if we are talking about a single person demanding 20 to 30 million, do we budget for that in the parliament? Do we budget for these individuals? I've just given you a simple rough number that possibly those who are insured. How many are insured here? Raise your hands.
Those with medical insurance?
Does it cover cancer? It doesn't.
Pardon?
Cover cancer.
It doesn't cover cancer treatments.
So I'm just trying to have a beginning, a point of, where to start from. I just want to know those who are insured. The next question will be, what does your medical cover do for you? Yeah,
Thank
because
you.
having the card is not enough.
Austin, I just
A
want
big
to...
round of applause to Dr. Harry.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
I just want to say the irony of this is the people who are making the pesticide are the same people who are making the cure for cancer. Can you see where that is going? That is another business. Because it's a Bayer and Monsanto joining together. Monsanto is making chemicals, Bayer is making the medicine. Oh, they are helping us. We get now a new treatment. You hear about it. But who is making that? Why wouldn't I not make more pesticides so that I can sell more of my cancer drugs?
Doctor has spoken mostly the financial implication, which I did ask, but he went further to speak about the social, the traumas, the individual trauma, the social trauma, the rejection in the society. You are isolated. You look at a person because you know that they have cancer or they have some problems like, they're going to die the next day. And these people are not ever happy. Even the shock that you get when you're diagnosed, I really can't say much. And it's all up to us to see why we should really remain grateful that we have sessions like this, just to remind us. And this is coming from the veggies and the stuff you eat on the table, the fruits you eat. Yeah? My last, and then I'm going to come to the stage. In 1 minute, if we succeed, there are loopholes, the costs are too high. If we succeed, and please answer me in 1 minute, to remove the pesticides, are we going to say that we are safe 100%?
Thank you for that question. We can remove the pesticides today from the circulation point, but so far as I speak, our soil is polluted a lot. Where we are growing those crops and we are spreading those chemicals, it's not safe to grow other foodstuffs unless that soil is treated to remove the pollution. There is a lot of story about that, but the time is not allowing. Tanzania threw away several tons of pesticides which were obsolete in 2013. But they threw away the soil, the pesticides, the obsolete pesticides. They left the soil there. What should have happened is to throw away the pesticides and the soils all together.
Wow, too scientific for me. But let's give a big round of applause to my wonderful panelists. After a series of question and answers, now we're going into the muddy paddies. Those watching Peppa Pig, we're going to jump into the muddy paddies, looking onto the impact. Yeah? Looking onto the impact. So I now would like to open the floor for questions from my wonderful people present here.
Done a wonderful job of telling us about the effects of pesticide. I have few things to add. I think the general knowledge of our farmers and traders or vendors is questionable because they do things, sometimes you wonder whether they know or they don't know. And perhaps it's time to invest to the consumers' knowledge so that they are able to make decisions. For example, we have heard farmers can have two plots, one for family and one for trading. You go to the market, the seller tells you, buy this one. It is fresh. It is, it was sprayed properly, and it is not affected by the pests. So you wonder whether they're promoting you to consume the chemicals. So I think the general knowledge of but the very same person who knows that if I grow this, it's bad for myself, he knows it is good for selling. And some sellers, they know if it is well sprayed, it's good for you, it is safe, it is clean, it is intact, etc. But also, if you are a smart buyer and you ask questions like, I want the veggie, but they should not be contaminated. They'll say, no, these are not contaminated because if they are so, they'll go bad very easily. So they're organic. That's why they don't go bad early. So you wonder whether what they're telling you is what. It's a lot of... but also the very farmer who is cultivating the two plots, he or she does not use PPEs. They spray while they're harvesting, or they spray and harvest before 14 days or 21 days. So you wonder what they're doing. There are very farmers who consume what they don't spray, but they spray in the other plots while they're harvesting or working on the farm. But also, the water, the air, the soils are contaminated. Those goes into sources of drinking water and water we use in various places, and the soils that we grow other foods. And the very farmers who are aware of the two plots contaminate the soil, and they grow things in that soil and they consume. So I think we need to do more in terms of education to both farmers, vendors, and even consumers. There's another problem of Mkorogo concoctions. They mix these pesticides of all kinds to create a superior one. But they don't know the new formula they are creating. And that's also an issue that is around into our farms. I think we need to also consider and educate farmers about the effect of having Mkorogos. They make it on their own in those. And there's another problem of disposal of the packaging material, the containers that they are using. They throw away, they use at home. They do many things with the containers. Well, we know even if we wash, the residue effect is still there. And this is another area that needs knowledge. And when we speak to farmers, these are some of the things we are finding. We are also finding that in some of the areas where we have heavy chemical use, pesticides and all kinds of agrochemicals, we have disappearing pollinators. The pollinators which are important for pollination process are disappearing. And this is an issue that also we need to pay attention to, because the effect is larger than we think when we are missing these other organisms that we need in our everyday farming. Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution. Those were not questions, but wonderful contribution. People spray what they do not consume and consume what they do not spray. But again, as well, for some of us born before computers, we used to have butterflies all over us, around. But we do not see butterflies anymore, do we? You guys do not even know what butterflies are. Wonderful. Please, there's a hand, the gentleman at the front. Question, so you go straight to your question. Name, question, if it's direct to someone or just a general question, and then you take your seat. Just make it brief, please.
Oh, thank you. My name is Saidi K. Ramadani from the University of Dar es Salaam. Before the question, I wanted to say something on the presentation and the whole subject. I think that as citizens, we are occupied with corruption. That's why all the program, technique, and different mechanisms which has been taken in place have failed to reach us on what we want. But of course, the scientists have confused me again on the presentation. You said that pesticides can be chemical, but also can be natural. And on the presentation of Mama there, say that the farmers can use natural pesticide which they are creating, which are non-chemical. For what? And for the presentation first, provided the usefulness of pesticide to kill the insect, how can non-poison kill the animal? So I want to know that how can we have non-chemical or non-poison pesticides?
Thank you very much. Very good question. It will be answered. The lady there. I'm coming this side. So let's take that lady over there. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Nina Towo, and I'm from the University of Dar es Salaam. I have a question. Don't you think that one way or another, our own disregard to being more environmental friendly is what is actually contributing to the influx of pesticides, not only in the country but at an international level? Because, for instance, our disregard to the environment is what is increasing climate change, right? And through climate change, there's a variation in temperatures, metabolism increases in pests, they need to feed more, so we need to use more pesticides. And also, when it comes to climate change, there's longer winters, longer summers, shorter winters, shorter summers. So people would want to harvest more in a shorter summer, and how? Using pesticides to prevent the influx of pests on their crops. So don't you think that our own disregard to being more environmental friendly is what is also increasing the influx of pesticides in the country and the international community?
Thank you very much. It's a powerful question. We'll take last one from this group and then we move to this side. The lady next. Oh, okay. Name, question, and that's for you, Dora, the previous question, yeah? Environment. Karibu.
Thank you, too. My name is Finis. I'm from University of Dar es Salaam. I also have the additional question to the first speaker, or the first question, that is, if the natural ways or natural herbs for combating the pest are poisonous, how safe will the human beings be from those natural control of the pest? And the other question is on the flexibility of those natural ways of dealing with the pest, that, as you said before, that the one who made these pesticides are the one who later on made the control or the medicine for the cancers. It is also, there is a rumor that they are the one who creates diseases for the plants, so that we go by their medicines or the pesticides. So For example, from my region, Iringa, we have this production of tomatoes. There are very emergent cases of very emergent diseases like the so-called kantangazi. So you see that how can these natural herbs be very flexible enough to combat kantangazi, the very emerging disease that most of the farmers cries on it. A lot of losses have happened there. So on the cases of preservation of these cilios too, what kind of the natural ways or natural herbs are we going to use? Are they flexible enough like mwarobaini? Can it be absolutely a solution to each and every kind of diseases? Thank you.
Powerful question. Thank you so much, Fenes, from the University of Dar es Salaam. We'll take a couple of more questions before we go to the rounds of responses. Mpekaka hapo mbele, yes.
Yes, thank you. So my name is Janoran Simakweli from the University of Health and Life Sciences, pursuing a Bachelor of Environmental Sciences. So I only had a contribution on how we get pesticide on our table. So we do know that pesticides have similar characteristics to the persistent organic pollutants. These persistent organic pollutants do biomagnify and bioaccumulate. What does this mean? So if a cow eats vegetables from the farm, then that cow will actually contain the pesticide. It will not excrete the pesticide from it. That means the cow keeps eating more. That means it accumulates more. And actually, there is biomagnification of this pesticide in the food chain. So if a cow per se is eaten by a human being, that means that we are actually getting more from the cow than if we had eaten the vegetable itself. So for example, if we had a rabbit maybe eat from the farm, then a dog ate the rabbit, then we are eating the dog. For example, if we are eating the dog, that means we are actually obtaining more of the pesticide than if we had eaten the vegetable itself. So I only had that to add. So the meat we eat actually, pesticide can biomagnify. Yes.
Thank you very much. Ingestion. Doctor had mentioned. There are two hands right behind him. Please, let's pass the mic. Very good contribution. So it goes, from the grass to the milk we drink from the cows, from the beef we take, etc. We need to be conscious. DIY. Karibu.
Thank you. My name is Mashauri Geoffrey. So my question based on how I can get out from the effect of the pesticides. So you asked the question to the speaker concerned about what are the way should you get out from the effect of pesticide. Among the way, advised us to encourage asking the questions about before buying maybe before buying those products in the market. So my question is that, so what are the other measures speaker should advise those local societies from Tanzania, so can use to solve to avoid the problems of these pesticides. So those local societies that are not have ability to ask the question themselves that this product are being affected by the pesticide or what? What are the measures to those local societies in Tanzania? So I think my question is well. Thank you.
Your question is very well understood. Please give him a round of applause. Thank you. That's another very good question. So it's us, but there are other people as well. You can protect your food very well from the farm, Mama Dr. Motima, from the farm, all organic. Then it goes on to Kariakor. The mamas or babas are putting them on the floor. Come rain, come sunshine, come dust, come what. I think it gets biologically infected and then it gets into our system. Please, that's a very good question. And Dr. Motima, I'm sure, will have a response to that. Or Dr. Vera. Karibu, your name, your question.
Thank you. Mine is a contribution, not a question. My name is Janet, as I said before, from an organization called Mwanangu Development Center, or Tanzania. Do it yourself. We are an organization that started with helping children with cancer in Muhimbili. So I was very happy to hear from Dr. Harry and the measures or the information that he shared. But we have many challenges in the health sector that are coming from the pesticides, from pollution and all of that. And one of the key sectors that we're working with are children with hydrocephalus and spina bifida, including the cancers as well. And this is birth defect, which is caused by nutritional deficiency. We all know about folic acid. All the vegetables we eat have a very high quantity of folic acid. But unfortunately, many parents are giving birth to children with hydrocephalus and spina bifida. Yet, our community is of a farmer. We eat, say, naturally, but still there's a problem. And the burden, the hidden burden, is beyond what even the amount of money he has said. So I want to encourage us, from an organization, we started as a health organization, seeing the impact of nutritional deficiency, we decided to farm organically ourselves. That way, we can teach our youngsters up to the growing age the importance of using non-chemical ingredients in raising their farms, or just having better choices in food. So I just wanted to share that this is a living example of many children in our center that we are helping through nutritional deficiency, just correcting it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Keep up the very good work you do. Ladies, this is my call to you. Please, when you know you have a baby, do attend your clinics and do follow the guidance that you're given by the doctors on the foods and whatnot and what forth you eat. As Dr. rightly said, Dr. Harry Tungaraza, that the cancers have been able now to penetrate into the stomach, into where the little angel is growing, and you know they are born, as she rightly said, with defects. So plus being conscious of what we consume. Please, next hand. We'll take two from this side and then we go to this side. Yeah, there's a gentleman right next to you. Yeah. Name your question and then we move on.
Thank you. My name is Simon. I come from Ardi University. My question is, where should we as a country put more emphasis? Is it the policy framework? Is it educating the farmers? Or raising awareness to the public? Thank you.
Very powerful question. I'm sure you're going to give me an answer to that yourself. Moving to this side, there's a lady here. Ladies go first, gentlemen. Yeah, I'm coming to the back. Everyone will have an opportunity to ask questions.
Thank you. My name is Nyanjula Kalindo from Tanzania Society Survey Organization. I have a question to all. First, to Dr. Mwatima. How we can have a culture of questioning, because we have not, as a Tanzanian, and how the people can be involved in the police making. I see this is a problem. And I think the police, there are few people, not the citizens are not participating in it. Second, Dr. Tungalaza, it's true, it's so sad. I was on Sunday at Simumbili, in the ward of children in the country. It's so sad, and I see a lot of number increasing nowadays. So the budgets are not there. What can we do? The number increase, the problem is here. We try to raise our voice, but we become voiceless. How we can do that? The people are suffered. I talked with one of the parents of the child who is suffering from cancer. He asked me, why this? Why to my children? I'm not a doctor. I failed to answer. And then there is other problem. For instance, he's from Morogoro. Sometimes he failed to get a fare to Dar es Salaam. It's so hard. It's a torture to people. Then to Dr. Ngoy, when you talk, I see there is some sort of corruption there. How can we end that? Maybe the TAR or the other leaders, they get a certain person. That's why they do that. Then to Mama Dola, how can we advertise that local pesticide? And I want to know if our research institution, they try something to advertise this, or to make people I think kuamini the local pesticide. Thank you.
Powerful questions. A round of applause to her. Thank you so much. Those are very, very powerful questions to every panelist. You know, when you speak of cancer, every one of us has had a case in the family. We'll not dwell onto that right now. Please, go ahead. Your name and your question.
Good evening. My name is Hussein from University of Dar es Salaam. My question is, are we safe? Because I don't feel safe anymore. And yes, I believe there is a need to place deliberate mechanism to ensure that we create awareness to vendors, to producers and consumers, just like what Doctor has said. But another question, my biggest concern is, what can we do to the government? I mean, we all know that the government is very powerful. It can change the narrative at any time T. I mean, the reason that we lack this kind of information is because of what the so-called beloved government. Why don't we have this kind of information, of this kind of education? So what can we do to the government to wafanya nini hawa jamaa? Thanks.
Hussein, before you give the mic, or you just give it back, but as you still stand, from this minute onward, are you going to be safe? I'll let you and the rest of us digest on that. There's a hand behind you. Blaze, good to see you. Thank you so much for the great efforts you do into the country. I believe you'll have an opportunity to hear a word from you later. Thank you. Karibu. Your name and your question.
Okay, I'm Jacob Ihuya. I'm an energy expert. Well, I'm not, I would like to talk about, I'm just having a comment, by the way, concerning the pesticides and pollution. In Africa, we live in tropical areas in sub-Saharan Africa. And for that case, diseases are there. Diseases affecting the plants, affecting what we eat, they will always be there. And the best thing for me, I think, in contributing to what previous speakers have said, is I was once a farmer back then, before I say it. In what I was doing my cultivation and planting and doing all sort of farming activities. But when it reached the point of diseases affecting my produce, diseases affecting my storage of goods, diseases affecting what is still in the farm, it was a bizarre, because I didn't know where to go, who to see. I was just getting suggestions. Go and buy that, go and buy this. And everyone had their own idea of what pesticide should I use by then. So I think producers, farmers who always bring food in Dar es Salaam, who always bring food in the cities, whereby in cities we don't have farms, we don't farm. There has to be an information centers, especially for those for those who are doing farming. They need to have what to do when this comes, what to do when that comes, because initially I did not have any information. I did not know what to do, and therefore I end up doing and buying what is not required and bring my produce in the city and cause problems. Number one. Number two, we have goods we need to preserve. We need to make money, because farming, what you invest, you need to have it back end of the day. And so we have goods that perishes. That's why we need to preserve them. What do we know? What can we put to preserve my goods? All these informations have to have a center. They need to have centers. And lastly, if the government, as speakers in the panel said, as the government can, in Tanzania, let's say our government really control drugs, illegal use of drugs. We talk of cocaine and all these kind of drugs. If they can control the illegal drugs, I am sure, indeed, they can control pesticides that are harmful to our people in the country. My last point is that producers of these pesticides, sometimes they don't understand, because this is food, and everyone needs food. There are very few countries in the world that produces every food for its own people. Every food. Very few countries would do that. very, very few countries, especially in Europe. Most of their food, some of them they import. And they forget one thing. They import this food, some are from Africa. And we are using the pesticides themselves have produced. So the government really has to make a stake on it. Because if the control is there, I'm sure by large percent of what we eat shall be safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Those are very powerful contribution. Let's move this side. There's a hand, final hand from your side. There's one last hand. Let's pick that hand and then we move to this side. Everyone will have an opportunity to ask questions. Thank you. Name and question.
Okay. My name is Johnson Geoffrey, and I have a simple question. And I'll have to start with like a simple explanation. I think something which should preoccupy our minds is on chemicals. And we have found that the problem is not on pesticides itself, because we have to kill those parasites. So, as one of the panelists as just said during the presentation, that we have the initiative in the local level. So I want to know how we do to encourage, like to improve those initiatives. We have like those products like pesticides, which are chemical free, to be globally known. Like in our country, we can start in our country, like every local farmer to know how to use them, so that we can kick these like pesticides, which are chemical, which contains chemical, out of the system. How?
Thank you very much. Very good contribution from you. Chemicals, we have a challenge of having very few agronomists as compared to, there's a hand at the middle. Raise it up, lady, yeah. Agronomists vis-a-vis the number of farmers in the country, very, very big racial difference between agronomists. Most farmers do not even know how to properly use these chemicals. Karibu, your name and your question.
Okay, my name is Grace Nzigo. I'm from Muhimbili University of Health and Allied Science. I'll be privileged to give a contribution first, and then I'll give out my question. From what I think, from our today's debate, I think there is need for a pressure, coordination between the public health sector and the agriculturalists in terms of selection. Selection meaning, earlier the previous speakers were talking like farmers have to use more about the bio pesticides instead of the artificial pesticides. So insisting too much on that, pressuring on too much. And concerning the timing, that perhaps the spraying, the methods of spraying, what time are best. If it's in the rain season, that means there will be discharges, residual discharge from the agricultural field, so it's best maybe in the dry seasons. It's all about pressuring and the management of the pesticide. But my question is this. On the medical field, if it's about the pharmaceuticals, for instance, we're told that, and we advise clients, for instance, if in a family has spilled medicine, I mean the pharmaceuticals, the tablets, or has expired pharmaceuticals, has to return them back to the pharmacist for proper disposal. Then, is there any intervention for the pesticide leftovers or pesticide contaminants that are leftovers to the farmers? What should they do? Should they just put them over in the environment to contaminate further, or is there any intent, or as we health professionals? That's my question. Thank you.
Are you doing at the Muhimbili Public Health? Anyone else doing public health? Can they stand up? Can we stand up and acknowledge, because this is the future of our country. Those doing public health, please stand up and let's give them a big hey! This, ladies and gentlemen, public health is the very core reason why we are here. This is the future of Tanzania. Let's give them all the love, all the support, so that, you know, they give us the direction of our country. So thank you very much. There's a hand there. I'm coming this side. I see two final hands from this side, and then that will come to the panelists.
Okay, thank you. My name is Angel Frank from Muhimbili. I'm doing public health, and it's a privilege being here tonight. My question goes to Dr. Harry Tungalaza. I think there is a business in oncology because there is, as you mentioned, the cost of diagnosing and the cost of treatment of cancer is too high, and probably the government is gaining a lot from that sector, from the treatment and diagnosis. And recently I've seen it was a post from a friend that Tanzania has purchased early diagnosing machine, which is maybe we are one of the very few countries that are having that machine in Africa. So I am very sure there was a committee before purchasing that machine that actually was weighing the the cost benefit thing, the analysis. Like, okay, so we are purchasing this, then how it's very costful. The billions of money have been spent there. So how are we going to get the money back? I'm just thinking. I'm not saying it was like that. So maybe also that government has seen the benefit of the cancer thing, of the oncology thing. That's why it's okay. I know it cares for the people and all that, but there's so much money that is gaining from. Is that correct? You just tell me about that. Also, I'm having another question on the organic products, the one that you are advising us to use them. If we see, we can check the cost of these pure organic products and the cost of these the pesticide-grown product in the market. If you just go and kwanza, they are not in these normal markets that we are going to purchase things. Like, you don't go to Kariakor and find the nyanya that are grown like purely organic. So like we see like they're not really accessible and affordable to normal Tanzanians as me. So we also have something to answer on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very powerful question. So we are promoting organic, and we can't access organic. Last hand from this side, and then we move to this side. We take those three hands, and then we're good. Yes.
Thank
Name
you.
and question.
My name is Warren Kizito Magani from Mwimbili, University of Health and Allied Sciences. I have a contribution. First, I read from a WHO document that about 25% of the global produce of these pesticides is utilized in Africa, and it accounts for approximately 99% of the deaths due to pesticides. So that's something that we should also keep an eye on. But we have tried to talk about the impacts or the outcomes of utilization of these pesticides. We spoke about cancer, but also the environmental impact, and there's a current issue going on about antimicrobial resistance. We have resistant microbial strains, and these, in the long run, we see that they have higher costs to the country and also to individual level. Why? Why am I saying this? Because this issue of AMR or antimicrobial resistance, first that even we have a microorganism, it causes a disease. This disease has a particular medicine, but due to its evolving, or the AMR, the resistance, now the medicine becomes ineffective. So we are going to another cost. What is this cost? To produce a medicine which will be more effective compared to the first. So this is also something that we should also consider. But also pesticides, a large part of this discussion has focused on the agricultural part. But we should also consider the domestic use of these pesticides. I also read somewhere that, okay, we have just simple examples of this domestic use. Maybe we also have these repellents. Mosquito repellents are also pesticides, I think. If I'm wrong, I need to be corrected there. Also, we have these programs like fumigation, right? Yeah. Also, at home, we want to get rid of some places. We are third world countries, as one of the members or one of the former speakers said. We have rodents. Yeah, we have rats. Yeah, so you just want to get rid of rats. We use some kind of maybe pellets or what to just paste them. Who are the possible victims? First victims, the children. some of these are maybe colorful. They just have a 5-year-old there just playing and says, oh, this looks just like a sweet, and he consumes it. That's another problem I could look at. That was just my contribution. Thank you very much.
Asante sana. Let's move this side. Tuanze kule nyuma. Let's start from the back. Coming to the front. Just let's be as brief as possible. I want to take all those questions in 3 minutes. Please. Thank you. Name, question. Yeah.
Okay, asante kwa nafasi. Kwa jina naitwa Enoki Mgishagu Musiga. Na mambo mawili. La kwanza ni comment, lakini la pili ni swali. Kuhusu namna ya kusawazisha matumizi mabovu ya hizi dawa pamoja na madhara yake, mimi ningeshauri kwamba nyie mapanelist ambao mlioko hapa, na imani mna nafasi fulani hivi ambayo mnaweza mkaichukua katika kuelimisha jamii dhidi ya madhara haya. Kwa mfano, kuna njia ya usawazishaji wa kibiolojia au biological control, ambapo tunatumia kiumbe aina fulani kumuondoa mdudu fulani. Kwa mfano, kuna baadhi ya mimea zina volatile hoes, kwa mfano rosemary plants, ambao wanatumika kufukuza mbu. Lakini pia kwenye mifugo, mfano ng'ombe, kuna baadhi ya ndege ambao wanakula, ambao wanatumia kupe au wadudu wanao attack hao ng'ombe. Kwa hiyo research mbalimbali zikifanyika namna ya uzalishaji wa ndege hao kwa kiwango kikubwa, inaweza kusaidia kutatua tatizo la matumizi ya pesticides. Kwa mfano, kutumia pesticide kwa ng'ombe, manake zile sumu zinaingia ndani mwake, alafu baadaye sisi tunakuja kutumia ile nyama, alafu tunapata madhara. Lakini swali ni kwamba kutokana na mdahalo ambao umeonyeshwa pale, MC pale akiwa anaongea na kolegi wake ambao baadaye ilisitishwa, kwamba aliongea kwamba Europe wanazalisha pesticides, wanajua kwamba hizi nafaa kwetu sisi kutumika na hizi kwa wao kutumika, na wanajua kwamba zinazoletwa huku zina madhara, lakini zile ambazo hazina madhara ndo wanaruhusu kutumia nchini kwao. Hasa ningeomba ili swali lijibiwe na watu kutoka Western. I hope that are here. So you'll help us to answer this question. Kwa nini mnachukua hizo product ambazo ni harmful, mnakuja kuziuza huku, lakini zile ambazo hazina madhara mnazitumia kule? Asante.
Swali zuri sana, naomba tumpigie makofi. Lakini wakati tunampigia makofi, why am I even talking in Kiswahili? A very good question, a very pertinent question you've asked. Thank you very much. A big round of applause to you. I think the question shouldn't be why do they not use and why do we use? Now that we have the knowledge, what next? Tutakujibu, you'll get a response from the audience. But you'll get your response. Otherwise, let's continue to network. Pembeni yake hapo. Before we go to the lady, the gentleman behind, there's a guy behind. Yes, please. We're coming to the front, so let's finish with the back. Karibu.
Okay, thank you. I go by the name of Stonis Donald from Muhimbili University of Health and Allied Science. Yeah, I know you are conducting scientific debate, and it means that we are working much on knowledge and not on experience to use the English language. So I'm going to use Kiswahili. Yeah. First, kitu cha kwanza ninaunga hoja, alafu baadaye nina swali. Naunga hoja kwa Dr. pale kwamba mara nyingi European they think beyond. Wanavoleta kitu they think beyond the trade. Unaona? Dr. ameelezea kuhusu replication of pests, kwamba wanaleta madawa ambayo yanatumika kuua pests, lakini on the same time yana accelerate replication of very resistant pests kwa ajili ya previous, kwamba waje generate dawa ambayo itakuja iuzwe tena kwa ajili ya tatizo. Lakini mimi naunga hoja tena kwamba hizo commodity, mimi ni mtoto mkulima, hizo commodity ambazo ni pesticide, they do not only accelerate replication of very resistant pests, but also zina induce some effect to the plant. Naona unatumia dawa kwa ajili ya kuua pests, lakini unakuja kuona mmea uko affected. ina maana inakuhitaji tena uende dukani kuangalia solution kwa ajili ya tatizo ambalo limeanza upya kwenye mume wako. Unaona? Ina maana European wana think beyond about how to make profit, but they do not think about how they affect us economically and healthcare. Lakini swali la pili nataka kuuliza kuhusu cancer. I mean, ni kitu ambacho niko interested nacho sana na nimekifuatilia kwa muda mrefu. Ila kwa bahati yangu leo nimepata pale specialist wa cancer. Unaona? Most of specialists of cancer, you are looking much about how to treat cancer, or about what you can do to treat cancer, but you are not looking much about how to terminate cancer. Kwa maana ya kwamba cancer iko ya aina mbili. Kuna ile ambayo tunaikuwa kutoka kwenye mazingira, lakini kuna ile inherited. Sasa mimi nataka kuuliza kuhusu ile inherited. You as a blessed person, Mungu amekupaisha mpaka umespecialize kwenye cancer. Naona? Umefanya kitu gani labda wewe kama specialist until now kuhusu cancer ambayo inakuwa inherited, kwamba kutokuitibu, kwamba jinsi gani unaweza kuiterminate cancer, kwa sababu tunajua kuna genetic engineering ambayo mna remove unnecessary gene kwenye genomes, unaona, kutoa effect ya cancer. Kwamba wewe kama professional tuambie kitu gani umefanya until there kwamba you are a specialist of cancer.
Asante, very pertinent question. Pass the mic to the gentleman in front of you. Swali zuri sana. Dr. Harry is doing a lot, but he will tell us in a very nutshell when he's responding to the questions. Please, your name and question.
Thank you for the chance. My name is Nehemiah Patrick from the National Institute of Transport. My question is based on the authorities, both our national authorities and the international authorities. As Madam there said, one of the French embassy representative, she said that in the beginning in French they were using pesticides, but as they went on, they decided to put a law of eliminating the use of pesticides, and then they wanted to turn into using organic using organic pesticides, isn't it? Now, I want to ask that what the steps they have taken at the French embassy in Tanzania, and for sure, according to the debate here, they want to be assured that every food products that they are produced in Tanzania will be safe for them and for the French people coming from Tanzania. They want to be safe when using the foods in Tanzania. Now, what have they taken, maybe to consult internationally or to our government, to make sure that the food which they will be consuming in Tanzania will be safe for their health, as well as will be safe for the country as well in Tanzania? Thank you.
Another very pertinent question. Thank you so much. You want to move to that side? There are 3 hands and 2 last. And then we move on to the next session. We get the response and then move on to the next question. But these are very, very powerful questions, gentlemen. Thank you. I'm seeing a very bright future for Tanzania.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Joyce Simon from Mohas. I have got 2 questions over here. Dr. Vera and everybody over there, having a question that for your working experiences that Dr. Vera, I think she's a very, she's not that much old actually, but she's a very well-experienced lady with our mama over there. How far as the farmers and peasants sensitized on the effects of these pesticides? Are they that much aware of the outcomes that the pesticides are bringing them, or they are not aware of them? Because once they are the ones who are most concerned in planting the crops and dealing with farming, especially women, are they well sensitized? Do you get any kind of data or information that there is maybe a village that have been educated how far has Tanzanian government have prospered in that corner? My second question is, what is our next step after this debate? Because everybody is here, very happy, in a very nice venue with very colorful environment, right? Then what next step are we heading to? What can anyone have a talk on the same table with the stakeholders, maybe in the government, because we expect that to have a hope that Tanzania, every Tanzanian should be safe from pesticides. Of course, our very own doctor there shouldn't receive those patients because, as he said, that that bank lady, maybe who came, ambaye alikwenda ofisini kwake, tayari hicho kitu kimeisha punguza pato la taifa. Then, sorry for the example ambazo naenda kutolea, ni kwamba tuko salama hapa tulipo because sisi ndio tumesoma, na if we're infected, taifa letu litakuwa na hali gani? Tusitiane moyo kwamba these things have only positive impacts. Tunajiua sisi, si ndivyo? And lastly, that's a fact, ambapo those peasants, very poor peasants, are suffering in villages over there, and they are not educated. What steps are we taking after this debate? What next? That's the key of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dree, did you say your name is Dree?
Joyce.
Joyce, yes. Thank you very much. That's a pertinent question. My panelists are probably going to chip on that. But I did say the objective is to raise awareness amongst us so that we are the next ambassadors. Everything begins with us. Okay? If you're able to change the person you look at in the mirror, that's you, then you're able to change the world. If you're able to reach out to one farmer, then you've reached out to 1,000. If you, Joyce, are able to tell that mama Kariakoo, mama nyanya yako umeitoa wapi, unajua huyu aliyeileta hapa, this and that, you're reaching out to multiple of other farmers. Professor Harper spoke about consumer awareness. This is also what we're trying to raise amongst us. If we're very conscious of what we put on our tables, then that cascades down all the way to the people who are bringing that to the market, the farmers. So if we demand healthy systems, we're going to lead healthy lives. But however, the specialists are here and they're going to contribute. But thank you so much. I think I'm doing my last 2 hands. Whoa, last 6 hands.
Well, good evening. My name is Mariam. My name is Mariam from University of Dar es Salaam. Well, my question is, I am not quite sure that the government does not know about the effects of pesticides. I think they do know the effects of pesticide. So my question is, why do they keep on giving more educations on creating more pesticides, and also the private sectors keep on opening institutes which are there to teach us the education, the knowledges of creating pesticides in agriculture, rather than giving us education on focusing on organic agriculture rather than the use of pesticides. So I just want to know why.
Thank you very much. Another pertinent question. Please pass the mic to the next person. We may not necessarily have, Mariam, we may not necessarily have the government to respond to that, but they will say in their own engagement with the government if they came across such and be able to respond to your question. Please, your name and question.
My name is Victor Herman from University of Dar es Salaam. I'm a student taking food science and technology. I would like to contribute to the people. My brother Hussein said that he is now feeling insecure on the food that he is taking from everyday life. I want you to know that on the food that we are taking, it depends. It depends whether it is a processed food or a raw food from the farmer to the market. And I will start telling on processed food. Starting from this, in processed food, there are many industries dealing with processing of the foods from the farms up to the consumers. So in the processed food area, there are institutions that regulate the amount of pesticides or other harmful substances that might be present in the food. For example, we have TBS and we have World Vegetable Center. All of this help in regulating and control the presence of the pesticide residues in foods so that it cannot affect human health. For example, they have some parameters like maximum residues, level limit, and average daily intakes. These are the parameters that they look in the processed food that they are inspecting, because we all know any industry that is dealing with food business such as processing, it must be registered according to the law. And after being registered, the sample of the foods that they are processing must be inspected by these authorities. So on that hand, we are somehow safe from pesticides effects, because if the food product have a maximum residue level limit, it will not be allowed to be sold to the public. It will be banned. And also there are some chemicals, when they exceed the amount that is registered according to the law, let's say the amount of phosphates in the foods, okay, the benzoic acids and so on, the additives, the preservatives, the sweeteners, all have their limits. When they exceed, the product will not be sold. So on that hand, we are safe. But on the raw food from the farmers to the market is where the loophole is, because most of the farmers, we are talking about large scale and small scale. Most of the small scale farmers are the ones who are not having more education about the use of pesticides. So the government should put much more efforts on this another category, which is the foods that are coming directly from the farm to the market. So I have some suggestions to which the government must put much more effort in order to reduce this effect of pesticides from the foods that are coming from directly from the market, from the farmers to the market, is whereby the government should address the local ways in order to reduce the pesticide levels, such as at our homes, we can do washing, we can do peeling, we can do blanching. Those are some of the ways which can reduce the pesticide residues in our foods. Also, the institutes should provide pesticides alternatives like organofarming, also bioremediation, and lastly, education of pesticides to the local farmers, including product selection, timing, and application rates. And the last one is law enforcement. We know there are laws that governing the agriculture sectors, which governs the use of pesticides, the way of farming, all of those. There are laws, but still the laws are not effective in controlling this problem. So we need much more law enforcement in order to overcome this problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We heard from our great contributors on, just pass the mic to the next speaker, on how the laws and the policies have loopholes. So we'll look onto how we can readdress the situation, please. But thank you for your very valid contribution. Karibu. Name and question. Straight to the question. Time is not on our side.
Okay, well, my name is Joel James. I'm from UDSM. Okay, my question goes direct to organic productions. As a country, if second is, when you look at those developed countries, like the French and the others, are they not using, pesticides? I hope, and to some extent, I'm sure that they are using. But why are those not much affected than us? Thank you.
Cecile, do we have pesticides? Are you using pesticides in France? Yeah, you can answer from there, yeah.
Yeah, as I mentioned in my opening speech, yeah, we use a lot of pesticides in France from years, from decades, and that's why we have a high rates of cancer. So yes, we use it a lot, and we have a lot of cancer. So now, because there is a movement within the civil society, and also farmers' association, also influencers, they did advocacy toward the governments, and now we are turning to organic. So, but yes, there is a problem in France for sure, and in Europe. That's why your mobilization after this debate, what you have to do as students, as citizens, as a journalist, as a media influencers, if you advocate, if you speak out, if you write, even in Instagram, if you publish your own stories, you will have the chance to reach the authorities. But you have the power. You are individuals, each one of us and of you. You have this power. So just use it, as we did.
Thank you, Cecile. Labda niseme kitu kimoja, na naomba nirudi nyumbani kidogo. Kama wenzetu wanadhurika kwa sababu wametumia pesticides kwa muda mrefu, haitufanyi sisi Afrika au Tanzania kuwa binadamu wa kipekee kwamba hatutadhurika au hakuna madhara. Ndio maana mimi dadangu ninayemfuata, Mungu amrehemu, alimchukua miaka 20 iliyopita kwa kansa. Tulikuwa tunaangaliwa kama familia ya ajabu. Yaani kwamba nyinyi mna mtu kwenye familia yenu at the age of 20 tayari ana kansa. Doctor ametuambia not only 20, sasa hivi kuna watoto below a year. Okay? So she thought about this idea, she brought it on the table. Like, we have these issues in our countries. Tanzania is still standing chances of actually doing very well. If each one of us today, if we just tweet, Insta, do all the social media, post it on WhatsApp status, just say something about this debate tonight, double our number will actually have gotten the message and probably retweet or do something so that this message is cascaded across. We can do it. We are the change we want to see tomorrow in our country. I'll take last contribution, last two hands, 1, 2, and 3, and then that will be it for now, because we want to look onto the impact, deep dive onto it, and then just open flow. So that if you want to continue engaging, if you want to, bilateralize, get more answers, but we need to give our panelists time for them to respond to the wonderful questions you've asked. So let's take 1, 2, 3 more hands, and then we'll move on to the next session. Please, yeah. Name and question. Straight to the question.
My name is Alex Alipo from University of Dar es Salaam. The first question is based on what are the strategies should be taken by the Tanzania government to control the such kind of problem that have been caused by pesticide, because we know that pesticides also it led to what we call water pollutions through what we call surface runoff to water bodies. So it may lead to water pollution. So what are the strategies that should be taken by the Tanzania government so as to control the such kind of problems? But also, I like the motivative language that have been used by some of the presenters here. That do it yourself, simply to mean that efforts of an individual are supposed to be involved. So my question that what are the response from the community on arguing or agreeing that they have been on agreeing that they could be able to stop using pesticides. Also, the last question is based on some of the issues that have been spoken by one of the presenters, that it's possible to have a product without the use of pesticides, and she asked that yes, it's possible. But also another question: it is safe to stop? Will it be safe by stopping the use of pesticides? And he answered that it is not safe. Why? Because the soil have been already contaminated. So my question that why we will stop the use of pesticides? Why we stop the use of pesticides while we know that it's not safe to us? So I need the critical argument that could convince us to argue that we will be why will we stop the use of pesticides while we know that it's not safe to us? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's pass the hand to this gentleman at the first, and then allow me to pick the lady at the back, and then we'll take the second round of questions after the presentation on impact. Karibu.
Asante, good evening. I'm Silvan Munganya from Agenda. First, I would like to question ourselves. Dr. here said that about doing the business, and some of us are singing the language or song with the business people. We are taken up by the business. Tunaimba wimbo wao. Tunasema dawa instead of sumu. These are poisonous. And when we say dawa, it takes us to see something like it's easy to handle it. Refer to what we say about the sumu ya panya. Everyone is afraid about sumu ya panya because it's said clearly that it's sumu. But for pesticides, for using in agriculture, we say dawa. Is it really dawa? Is it medicine for us? So we are taking up with the language of business people. So to be cautious. I'd like to refer to comment made by a facilitator on effects of pesticide to pollinators. Not only pollinators, which assist in the pollination process of the plants, but also microorganisms which help processing the soil to allow even air and water to penetrate to the roots of crops to grow easily. So we're also killing the microorganisms using pesticides. But referring to the spray, we are also convinced that we can spray even hazardous pesticides simply if we can wear protective gears. Is that really true? It's upon us to respond to this, but we have to be cautious even to using the PPEs, personal protective equipment. We are also referring to the use of organic products, or is kind of organic pesticides, biopesticides. Generally, there is no one bullet kills all. Either going to pesticides or even these biopesticides. There are a combination of factors which can help us to eliminate this kind of pests. So there is no one bullet kill all. And someone asked about the efforts taken by CSOs in educating farmers or towards reducing independence of pesticides. Agenda has been working with a number of civil society organizations. Back to 2002, we established a network of NGOs and advocated for removal of obsolete pesticides in Tanzania by then. We had 36 NGOs worked in developing and the implementation of the Africa Stockpiles Program, which helped Tanzania to identify and remove of over 700 metric tons of obsolete pesticides for safe disposal outside the country. But still, the country is not safe, as my colleague Dora said. There are still remaining soil from 14 identified sites, over 600 tons of highly contaminated soil. So that's why she said, even if we remove the pesticides today, it doesn't guarantee that we are safe. We have to do more. That's what she meant. And
what more?
Pardon?
What more do we ought to do?
As I said, there are a number of issues we have to do, including advocacy for policy change, but also implementation of the existing policies and legislation.
Yes, on particularly on the soil. What can we do? What ought we to do? Can you pass the mic? Because it's pertinent. I think someone else asked that question.
Yes, so what we can employ for soil, we can use bioremediation. So we know that there are different microorganisms that can actually consume chemicals. We actually know, for example, Pseudomonas can consume cyanide. So we can actually look for organisms that can actually consume these chemicals and employ them in the soil. So this is a mechanism that we can use to remediate the soil back into its original state.
Round of applause. Thank you very much. That's a powerful contribution. I give you 1 more minute to just wind up because I want to take the next session.
Thank you to my neighbor. It's true, you can use bioremediation, but it depends on the extent of pollution and the amount of the soil, considering 600 metric tons. Now, I was saying about the work we did. So there's still a lot to do, including advocacy for policy change, but also implementation and enforcement of the existing legislation, but also educating the farmers, as Professor here said. And also, we did some kind of training to both farmers, extension officers, school teachers, particularly secondary school teachers, so that they can be trained of trainers through their students. So we did this in several zones, including the southern zone, western zone, northern zone, but still there is a lot to do. So as this forum can be another forum for change, so we can start doing something for our better future. But can we ask ourselves one question? Dr. Vera said that this pesticide came in around 1945. What was the practice before 1945? Were there pests? What were there?
Last, we take the next session, and then I will open the floor. If you want to stay longer, you will be able to stay longer, but I wouldn't really wish to keep this program rolling after 9 p.m. So please.
Good evening. My name is Lulu Sadru Sengulo from Muhimbili University of Health and Allied Science. Speaking about public health, we are speaking about preventing, promoting, and protecting public health. We have seen a lot about pesticides, and the panelists try to give us the best way of overcoming these pesticides effects. And my question comes: we as Tanzania, we sometimes import goods from the outside. Take a good example of an apple fruit. It was a few weeks I visited a Kisutu supermarket, and I tried to investigate on the products that are produced within that market. And one of the products was an apple, as the poster which was implemented. Apple, it's a fruit that everyone likes it, but it contains a fungal disease known as apple scab. So, for instance, we Tanzania, we implement all those measures of protecting or being against pesticides. But what about those apples that are being imported from South Africa to Tanzania? Will it help in the prevention of pesticides, since we all know that all countries all over the world, they are really affected with pesticides? So what should we do? We as Tanzanian, either should we still continue importing those apples from the abroad country, or we should refuse the importation of those apples. Unless otherwise, thank you so much.
Thank you. What did you say your name is?
My name is Lulu Sadru Sengul. Lulu.
Lulu. Okay, Lulu, thank you very much. It's the same question that I'm asking you back. And probably invite my panelists to start responding to your questions, but I'm only going to give you 3 minutes each to answer all the million questions that you've been asked. 3 minutes. Noru, you knowing that she will not respond to that because I'm asking Noru, I'm asking the audience through her. Already knowing an apple imported from South Africa. This, again, it's the wisdom that I picked from Dr. Mwatima, my mother, as I'd mentioned earlier, that I'm reaping a lot of wisdom from her. Knowing that this apple came from South Africa, it's probably been on that market for over 3 weeks. Not a single
mancozeb. So they call them their names and then they sell. For the farmer, he does not look at the active ingredient when he's buying the product. He normally goes for trade name. So you find a product that has 3 different trade names, but it is one, like profenophos, you can find profenophos, you can find selecron, you can find more that is the same product. So when he goes to the shop saying, I have a problem, the dealer, the person who is selling the product without knowing or deliberately will say, go and mix selecron and more selecron and profenophos. These are like taking, I don't know, with medicine, Panadol and paracetamol and aspirin, you mix them together and take. That's an overdose. So those are the reasons why we have people using mixtures. They have developed super pests. They are not dying anymore, so they are concocting whatever they want. Then I will...
Doctor, 1 minute.
Yeah, I want to look at other questions that were addressed to me directly that I can also respond to. There was a question somebody asked about 25% of pesticides being used in developed countries, but 99% of the poisoning that occurs in our countries. When we look at the type of agriculture that we have in Africa and in developing countries most of the time, this is small-scale farming. With developed country, they have large-scale farming. They have large-scale farmers. They produce for many people, which means they use a lot of mechanization. They don't expose as many people to the pesticides as we do. We are small-scale. The number of people who get into contact with the products are many, and these people, they don't know that these products are harmful. That's why they call them dawa and so on. So they use them either carelessly or they use them and they are poisoned. That's why we have the 99% poisoning in these countries. The products that go to Europe, they test them before they take them. We sell vegetables to Europe, but they will not take them without testing for residues and making sure that they are free from the residues. So you find that the farmers who sell to Europe, they don't apply as much pesticides as they do for products that they sell locally. Why? Because locally we don't analyze for residue. My friend there was talking about TBS and having processed food that is controlled and that is safe because they look for residues and they make sure that the maximum allowable, maximum residue limits are met. That is what you read in books. That is why we want you as scientists, as youngsters, what you read in book, question it. Find out what is in reality. In reality, in this country, we don't have maximum residue limits. We have never set maximum residue limits for our crops. We rely on residue limits that were set elsewhere. These are not ours. We have to do some. TBS are supposed to come up with maximum residues for the crops that we grow. And we have to force the government to test the products that go to our market. The TPRI lab is huge. It was a lab that was constructed to cater for the whole of East Africa. The infrastructure is here. They have equipment. But we see what the government is doing is promoting the use of pesticides. So I'm sure you will think about it when you are working, when you go out into the field, especially the public health officers who are there to prevent diseases and so on.
Doctor.
Thank you.
I'm afraid I will have to. If there's any unanswered question, we'll still be here for some time. We'll ask you to bilateralize. Dr. Mwatima, do you have any response? 3 minutes of fame before we go on to the impact, and then that will be the mark.
I think a very interesting debate, and
in this kind of a situation, I don't want to pick and say this is the answer. But I want these young people here to know that they have to go out and look for the answers, because they are the source of this knowledge. I want them now, when they sleep, to think about this debate in a different way, how they can make a difference. I want them to try to stop in some level to say, what is the government going to do? They also have to ask themselves what they are going to do. We talk a little bit in terms of how we can change our own attitude. We have also learned from Western countries how the consumers have been pushing for that. At the moment, I'm the chair of the Tanzania Organic Movement. It's an umbrella organization, but I don't have a very strong consumer organization which pushes that agenda of it is us, we have to do this. I know that there was time when they went to Kariakoo to check the minimum levels. It was horrendous. Nobody is checking on what is going into the Kariakoo. Everybody is doing that. So if we don't make ourselves, when we're coming out there and organize ourselves as youth people to try to say something about the situation, it is not too late. But if we let it go and we still continue to be the market, we will never get out of this. There was a question about how can organic feed the earth. Please stop that questioning, because if you question that, we will ask you, are we now feeding the world with the chemicals? Is that how we want to feed the world, with the chemical? Because this is the wording and these are the message that is coming in from the people who want us to remain where we are, to be the buyers. This is the only opportunity for the Africa, for Tanzania and for the African country to export, to sell, to do something using our own resources. I know that I'm also a farmer and I'm doing the farming, and I have realized that even these biopesticides, we can farm without using any chemicals, any. But if we push on using more and more, we are creating more and more resistance. But if we try to do multiple cropping, and this is what has been happening with our ancestors in the past, in the farm of the maize, they also have the pumpkin, they also have the pigeon pea, they also have this and that plant in there, and the wildflowers. These are the nature. Why don't we do how the nature is doing? What is happening in the forest? Nobody is spraying, nobody is irrigating, nobody is putting any fertilizer, but the forests thrive. Why? Because that is how it has been done, it has been meant to be, and that is the God way. Now we go out and we become the superior beings. We are even defining our own religion. It is very painful to see people saying, kill, 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 kill. Why do you have to kill? We cannot stand a mchicha with few holes. No, it has to be clean. It has to be killed. That insect has to be killed. Who gave you that permit? Who gave you that authority? You have been given a mind to be able to manage and to put everybody and to see those other ones that are also being. You are not the superior being. If you destroy this, the nature will kill you also. If you push the nature by killing everything around it, in the end you are also going to go. So we don't realize that. We become greedy. We're becoming monoculture. We are opening farms and planting one crop where these pests go to live. I was in Ireland, and they have organic farms outside, not even in the greenhouse, but they live in alley of the forest. Every 15 meters, they have another 5 meters of a forest, as it used to be. Insect and pests, they don't want to be disturbed. But you go into their environment, you are disturbing them, and then where do you want them to be? And then you think you are mightier to kill them? Think about it. Who gave you that power to do that?
Dr. Motima, thank you. Powerful wisdom. Asante sana. Dr. Harry.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your questions, and that like Dr. Vera said, brainstorming. I'll respond to 3 questions that I thought were a little bit critical. I'll start with one from that lady over there. She talked about children with cancer and what can we do. There are a lot of things that we can do. But I'll share with you this story. 2 days ago, being an oncologist, I did travel all the way to Moshi, and I ran 42.2 kilometers, which took me about 4 hours and 23 minutes in honor for these kids with cancer. And in doing so, which I trained for about 3 months, running every Saturday about 30 kilometers to 35 kilometers, thinking about these kids, with the climax on the 27th of Feb to run these kilometers to raise money. And currently I've raised over 2.5 million from fellow Tanzanians and people from outside, so that maybe some of this money can go and help some of these kids you're talking about. And we are going to use some of this money to pay for the doctors and clinicians at KSMC who have been volunteering to see these children for the past few months and years to treat these kids. So there's a lot we can do, but we can start with us. What can you do? I have run 42 kilometers. If you include the training hours and the kilometers, maybe I've run 100. And each kilometer, I'm thinking about these kids. Maybe you're a scientist. Maybe you're a social worker. You go there, there's a dormitory at Mwimbili where these kids are housed, those who are coming out of there. Go and spend a little bit of time with them. As a doctor, I know TLC, tender loving care, is part of treatment. Go and spend time with them. So there's something you can do. And that's where we can start from. And we cannot always wait for these leaders, the so-called politicians, to make decisions for us or to do something for us. We can do something, and that will be a social movement. A social movement. Let's not wait for our president or for our minister or for our local leader to do anything. There is something you can do. Business of oncology. Definitely yes. I would agree with you. Maybe my government is not doing business, but someone else is doing business. I spoke of treatment costs here, huge amounts. But again, what can we do? So I think when it comes to drug and treatment, as a country, maybe we should now start thinking of making our own drugs. We need to invest in research, R&D, research and development. So some of these drugs, and I'll give a very good example of India. India, what they're doing right now, the same drugs that are very expensive in Europe and America, cancer drugs I'm talking about here, they are making them at way cheaper price. And you may also know that most of our drugs here in Tanzania actually come from India. So we also as a country, we can also learn how to make some of these drugs, and we shall cut costs. Some of these costs that I've mentioned here are outrageous. They have no reason to be that expensive. And the moment we start making them, we'll reduce the budget and we'll treat more people. Instead of treating one person for the same drug, maybe we'll treat 10. The third one is from that gentleman, and there were 2 gentlemen over there, and I would really want to re-echo this. Let's not look for someone to blame. If you talk about pesticides coming all the way from Europe coming here, those go through our ports. There's TRA and the rest of the guys who look at those containers, TBS and everybody else, and she has spoken about some of these institutions. So we as Tanzanians, we should be able to allow what comes in, what doesn't come in. If the pesticide is here, it's because we have allowed it. It's not because a European guy brought it here. No, we brought it. So it's us, it's not them. So let's stop the blame game. What have I done? I'm here. I'm doing something, okay? So if you look at my life, if you know me, what I do is I'm a very active guy. I do run. I go to the gym. I cycle. I swim. I do these things because I know when it comes to cancer and so many other things. For example, cancer, he has spoken about genes, but oh my gosh, it's 5 to 10% of all cancers that are due to genetics. 5 to 10. The rest is what you do, what you put in your mouth, that's sitting there, that obesity. So what am I doing? I'm active myself as a doctor. Very active guy. I watch what I eat. I stay away from alcohol. I don't do tobacco, which is the cause of lung cancer and so many other diseases. I'm always out there. You can Google my name, how many articles I've written about health, well-being, and cancer itself. How many times I've gone to TV talks. How many times I've spoken to the radio shows. That's what I'm doing. So I'm doing something. And yes, I need help. You can stand up and join me, We could do all these things together. Okay? Because if 5 to 10% is due to genetics and the rest is what you do every day, it means that you can't prevent cancer. And that's my message. And my side hustle, if I go out of Mwimbili, I have my wellness company called Afyapal. I do cancer screening, I do cervical cancer screening, which is the number 1 killer among women. I do breast cancer screening, which is the number 1 killer among women too. Prostate screening to corporate companies and individuals. What else do you want me to do? You want me to find a cure? Yeah, I'm still young. I'm not done yet. Am I done? I'm not. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. The young and the restless. Yeah? A big hey! Awesome, Dora. You always fall victim of time, so I'm giving you 1 minute.
Actually, 1 minute.
Just to a general wrap up.
1 minute may be more for me.
Okay, awesome.
You know what? Most of the colleagues here have already preempted me. Professor there said how low the awareness to farmers is. Silvani there said there is no one method that does everything. That means to produce organically, you don't have one method to use mwarobaini only. There are several methods and there are several techniques. So you have to utilize them all. And that's not a secret. If you go into books, if you go even to the Ministry of Agriculture, even to the extension officers, some of them know these methods. So it's a matter of finding out where they are and applying them. And we as civil societies, we are promoting farmers to get in those kind of techniques and information. And what to do to promote the organic farming is, as my colleagues here have said, we have to raise the voice, tell people that this is possible, this can be done. We as civil society, we approach government, tell the government to change policies, to do some improvements to what is happening now, because we are aware of what is happening when we use these chemical pesticides. So we tell government to change. But when we don't tell them enough, they will not change. So we need more help. Even you can help us so that we can approach government in a better way, in a different way, so that the government can change. Because we know everything is controlled by government. We can't do anything different from what they have specified. So in terms of awareness, as my colleagues here have said, please go and raise awareness to your friends, to your parents, to your colleagues in school. Start practicing what you think is right. Agenda promotes responsible development. What do we mean? Whatever you are doing, do it responsibly. Care about the environment, care about your health, then do something. That's all I have to say by now.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Can we all please stand up and give a big round of applause to our panelists this evening? A very big round of applause. Thank you very much. I am going to ask you to kindly now take your seats back with the audience as I invite, before you sit, I want us to kill some mosquitoes. So please let's keep clapping as they take their seats. Asante sana, your water bottles. Well, guys, they've done justice to the moment we've been here. Let's just clap until they sit. Asante sana, asante sana, asante sana. Thank you so much. They will still be with us, so we continue to network. I'm now going to invite, for just sort of like a wrap-up, yeah? For just like a wrap-up, I'm going to invite I'm Organic for 2 minutes, and Blaze, this is not putting you on spot, but please come to the stage, and I'm Organic. Yeah, before we see it, how do mosquitoes make sound? I want us all to make that mosquito sound. And then when I say chopper, we don't use pesticides to kill mosquitoes. Yeah, we chopper them. I was just reading from some of the reviews from the people following us live. My friend said, Austin, I've been using rungu. And every time I spray rungu in my house, I choke. Okay? So let's chapa mbu by congratulating. Please take the middle seat. Let's make the mbu sound and then we chapa the mbu sound. Chapa, chapa, chapa. Thank you. Please be seated. This will be very brief. We have Blaise working for Swiss Aid Tanzania as the country director. Truly privileged to have him with us this evening. They're doing a lot of tremendous work to as far as organic living and life and agriculture is concerned in Tanzania. Blaise, thank you so much for being here. With us also a gentleman from I Am Organic. Remind me a good name again. Andrea. I Am Organic, as I'd mentioned earlier when I was introducing him, is probably the only one shop that sells organic produce in Dar es Salaam, the whole of Dar es Salaam. We do not have many outlets in the country, but also I want them for 2 minutes to give us what they have to say from this discussion. And we'll watch one quick video, which is again 2 minutes, and then we go on to networking. Please, Karibu.
Thank you very much, Austin. Thank you very much, everyone, for this great evening. I was truly impressed by the quality of the question and the interaction with the students. Very, very interesting. A few words about Swiss Aid. We are an NGO based in Switzerland, but active in many countries. We've been in Tanzania since the 70s. It's actually our 50 years in Tanzania this year, a long time. We work on a number of different topics in the country, but agroecology is one of our big topic here. And we work on the so-called transition, agriculture transition, from a purely conventional green revolution paradigm to agroecology, preserving the environment, human health, while producing food and doing agriculture. We work on at different levels. Of course, production, so which involves a lot of training, capacity building. We work with farmer cooperatives, farmer groups, lots of different NGOs in the country, developing demonstration plots, for instance, and doing training manuals. We work, for instance, with Sokoine University and other organizations. We work on institutional strengthening farmer organization, farmer-based organization, and also on marketing and value addition, value chain, and working with entrepreneurs like I Am Organic and many others who are interested by this emerging market of the organic market, and really trying to support the domestic market. Sometimes people think organic is only to export to Europe, America, and Japan, but not. It has a true value also in the country, in Tanzania. So really trying to promote the domestic organic market, and also to make it accessible, affordable for each and everyone here. And the last component is research and advocacy. So really working with research, sponsoring a PhD students at Sokoine University who are doing a lot of research on all sorts of aspects of biopesticide, pest management, use of digital technologies in agroecology and other aspects of agriculture. And of course advocacy, which is very much about engaging with policymakers, with the government, with the parliament, and others. And we've been collaborating with a number of different organizations, including TOAM, the Tanzania Organic Agriculture Movement, SAD, Sustainable Agriculture Tanzania, TFCG, Tanzania Forest Conservation Group, and many others, to engage mainly with the Ministry of Agriculture, but also other line ministries on issues of agroecology, agriculture, and human health. So in a nutshell, that's a little bit what we do. Thank you. On today's discussion, as I said before, I think I was really impressed by the quality of the interaction. And I think this kind of debate, of open debate or civil debate are really necessary, where you can engage, you can trigger thoughts, ideas, and maybe initiative, especially for highly educated youth here, to bring about change. At the end of the day, youth, you are the next generation, you are the change makers of tomorrow, and to be prepared for this important role in the future.
Thank you so much.
If I say kilimo, you say hi. Kilimo? Hi. Kilimo? Hi. Kilimo? Hi. Yes, this is kind of greeting you'll use with your friends, your colleagues, relatives to motivate them or inspire them use the organic foods. Will you use it? Okay. My name is Andrea Sichone from I Am Organic. I Am Organic. We are the organic shop located in Chore Road in Masaki. We are selling organic products from the smallholder farmers. We are dealing direct with the farmers from Mtwara, from Morogoro, from Bagamoyo now. They are all certified farmers using the organic ways to produce these products. Our work is to make these products accessible to the general public and make the public aware of what the organic agriculture and organic products means. So as a wrap-up, I would like to invite you to visit our shop and also to insist on using the organic produce, as you've heard from the doctors here, how dangerous the pesticides are. So I'm sure I'll receive many calls from now on from you demanding the organic produce, right? Who is going to buy organic produce from now? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. My big round of applause to my two final panelists for the night. You can please go ahead and take your seats. Thank you very much. I'm going to give the last concluding remarks. It's truly been an honor to host this event, to moderate this event, to engage with you all. It's not been an easy task, but I truly am grateful. It's really been an engaging evening. There are very many things that we can take away from the discussion this evening, but I would like to pick three takeaways amongst many others that we've taken this night. Number one, there's always something that you can do. Okay? There's always something that you can do. There's always something that you can do. There's always something that you can do. Okay? There's always something that you can do. Sawa, tuko sambamba jamani. There's always something that you can do. If it's talking to someone, if it is reading an article or journal or going to YouTube, or there's always something you can do. If it's spending 1 minute of your time at Muhimbili Hospital, the Cancer Institute, see Dr. Harry, get his number, pay him a visit, just talk to someone, post on your social media platforms. I believe we all are onto social media, but there's always something that we can do. You can do and we can do. There's always a room to make the world a better place, and it begins with us. There's always something that you can do. This is my number one takeaway. Number two takeaway, Dr. Harry mentioned. Most of us think that cancer is genetically originated, that maybe my grandfather had it, then I'm likely to have it. That is only 5 to 10%. That means 90 to 95% is related to the way we live, the lifestyle. Some of us work on the first floor. We would go with an elevator. Some of us work a kilometer away or go to school, a class a kilometer away. We would like to border. Okay? Some of us cannot even do a sit-up, a push-up. Some of us do not even to change the policies that are not friendly into our environment. We've seen it happening elsewhere. It can also happen in Tanzania. We've seen the loopholes. We allow loopholes because of our conduct. Ewala bwana. The time is now. If we want to see the better world for us and the generation to come, the time is now. These are the takeaways to add up to what you've all picked up from this discussion. Let's put our hands together for all of us, the panelists, the organizers, Alliance Francaise, the people who've organized everything, the live coverage, the DJ, the facilitator. I'm truly grateful. Thank you all once again for being here. It's now time for us to network. Our specialists are all here. They're going to be with us for some time. Let's engage. Let's network. Let's make the world a better place. And this marks the end of this debate. Until next time, I was your host, Austin Makani, and thank you. Till next time. There's a video, a very short one. Wakati tunakaribia kujinyoosha and everything, let's just watch our current Minister for Agriculture. He has a word to tell us. Karibu.
We are seeing now more and more move towards getting organic at its place because of what is happening into our farming community. There has been a misuse and too much use of unallowed inputs into our farmings until we are destroying our own environment, we are destroying our own health, we are destroying our own society, water system, and we are also destroying our economies.
Organic farming for us is the best way for us to be able to promote sustainable development in Zanzibar. And there are so many benefits to organic farming, which can be categorized into three main areas.
First, we are using our own available local resources, so we save money for the farmers to get in input. You can make your own compost and you can use it. You can help to build your soil fertility. You can plant your legumes and you can still maintain your soil fertility so that you have a continuous use of the same soil, which we know that building up a population, we're always going to have a scarcity of the soil. And if we are killing the soil, then we are also killing ourselves. We also have an issue of health. We recognize that cases of cancer are on an increase. Where are these coming from? It's from the chemical that we are using to apply to our plants, pesticide and the likes. So in that way, then we can also reduce on the health issues, on the health cost. And eating organic is eating health because you are eating something which you know what it has on it. Too much spraying of the chemicals, even during harvesting, has always been seen coming out. We also have a market opportunity. A lot of the stuff that we are selling to Europe now, they require organic produce. They can tell you that they require minimum dosage of this and that, but toward the end, it is an organic that will be selling from us. So we can make a premium pricing for things which we want to sell outside. We can also make a premium pricing for the things that we are selling for ourselves. But on top of that, we can assure that all the population is also eating healthy. And it is not just for the outside. We can also have a big improvement in the environment in totality in the issues of water quality, because most of the chemicals then they go into our waterway, into our springs, and they contaminate, they end up in the ocean, they build up a huge amount of algae, they kill our fishing population. That will all be solved if we go organic. So to me, organic has four kind of a front that we can enter into the economy. It can create employment for our youth. They can be also making our own organic fertilizers and organic input, get our neem, get our garlic, make a pesticide from our nduleles and the likes. That is an economy, that is a business for them. We can keep our soil fertile so that we can have continuously production in the same piece of land. We can keep, most important, our health.
Previously, I was not aware of organic. I have known the word organic when I was in secondary in biochemistry. But now I know organic through Milele after mobilizing us as farmers. So I choose organic for 3 reasons. The first one, to avoid feeding my children harmful materials. Second one, to keep the creatures in the soil live. And the third one, for the case of environment, no pollution in organic. That are 3 reasons I choose organic.
The future is organic. That's the truth.
Asante sana. The future is organic. Ladies and gentlemen, on the right-hand side, kuna snacks. They have been prepared for us. Karibuni, but let's network. Asante sana. Enjoy the rest of the evening.